Hello, good evening. It is Tuesday. It's just gone 8 o'clock. This is over and over again, and it is the Tuesday Clinic. Well, it's been a pretty quiet week at Arsenal for a change, isn't it? Not much going on. So I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll find a few topics, I'm sure. We will obviously look back at the Southampton game at the weekend and dissect where things are going wrong at the moment. Can we turn it around? We've got a big week, of course, 2 big games. Chelsea tomorrow, Man United on Saturday, so we're going to look ahead to them as well. A few players have made a few comments actually in the last week or so that maybe it might be worth looking at as well. And we're going to as well look back on the rivalry between Arsenal and Manchester United, of course, ahead of that game at the weekend. One of the big rivalries in English football, of course. All that is coming up the other side of this. I've got to be honest, I'm taking the blame for our recent poor form because since I made that new intro saying that we're celebrating all things to do with Arsenal, we haven't won a game. So I'm taking responsibility for it. I'll have to change that before tomorrow's game maybe because it's not giving us much luck, is it? Anyway, as you can see, I'm joined by a fantastic panel as always. Melvin, how are you doing? It's slightly different background for you today, Melvin.
Yeah, so I moved today. That's why I've got my headphones on as well. Got no proper internet. Got me headphones on which don't fit. Apart from that, I'm fine. Thank you.
Good that you've taken the time out to join us as well on a busy day. I know it's been for you. Adam's back as well on the show. How are you doing, Adam? You all right this week?
Yeah, all good this week. Well, all good considering, I would say. I'm in need of some therapy.
Yes, indeed. We are in need of a little bit of therapy again, as we have done the last couple of weeks. And Stan's back on as well, all the way from Canada. How are you doing, Stan? You all right?
Well, I've got a bit of a bad back and I've got a cold sore. But other than that, I ain't got any complaints.
Well, you're doing better than some of us, so that's good news anyway. And it's good to have you on the show. And of course, James as well. He's been on the show a few times. Good to have you back, James. You all right, mate, this week?
Yeah, all good. Thank you very much. Excited to be back on here. And I appreciate your patience with me the last couple of weeks. And I appreciate your kind sentiments with everything that's been going on with the family and everything. So I appreciate being asked back on.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that things are going a bit better at the minute.
Thank you.
Right, okay. I mean, obviously, there's quite a lot of things we can talk about this week. I suppose we need to start, unfortunately, rewind a few days back to the weekend and another very disappointing result. Now, this for me was quite a strange game. You look at the possession stats, you look at the chances, shots at goal, all this kind of stuff, and you would assume that we would have won the game, but we didn't. We lost 1-0. We couldn't score despite nearly 80% possession. I think we had 20-odd shots that a goal, not all on target, of course, but Southampton's goalkeeper played well, but ultimately we were unable to find a way through, conceded a goal, and we lost again. And you can scratch your head all you like and wonder why that happened when you look at, I say, the stats of the game. But ultimately, when it matters, we don't seem to be able to put the ball in the net on a regular enough basis. 45 goals in 31 Premier League games this season explains why the top four is maybe going to end up being out of our reach this season. Eddie Nketiah had to play up front before game at the weekend with no Lacazette. And, I feel a bit sorry for Eddie because he doesn't play regularly enough and we're expecting to come in and score goals. And he didn't really get an opportunity in the game, really, did he? But that's not just down to him. I mean, it's the sort of the team as a whole. I mean, Melvin, what did you make of all of that? Because, it's easy to look at it and say, well, we're unlucky. And to a certain degree, maybe we were. But did we do enough in that game to have won it?
Not in the final third, we never know. Absolutely not. When we went back to the old, passing it square, back, square, when we did get in the final third, we scuffed our chances. I mean, literally scuffed them. Smith Rowe should have done, I thought, better with his chance. Most certainly Xhaka should have scored. And they said a world-class save. With all due respect, the goalie shouldn't have got anywhere near that. No. He should have put it in the corners, on the ground, opposite the way the goal is actually looking to dive. It's got to be a goal. And any footballer would love to have a chance like that, even if it is on the wrong foot. And he can play with both feet, it's not 50-50, but 70-30 with his better turn, not with his better foot. No, that's a very big miss. And people telling me it's 5 world-class saves. I say they're 5 ordinary saves, to be honest with you, because none of them were, even the Xhaka one. People saying that was a great save from Xhaka, but it wasn't he didn't smack it. He was going in the goal, but he passed it in the air. So he gave the goalie every chance. There wasn't one save that I would say, this goal is unbelievable. I think he made a couple look good as well. We didn't we weren't deadly enough. You can have all the stats you like, gentlemen, but if you don't do it in the final third, what's the point? And I'll tell you something, there was some performances out there that really took me back to the old days where you're thinking, are these certain footballers good enough to wear the shirt? And some of them, you can't do it, not over one game, but if it was just over one game, I'd say this footballer is not good enough. That's shocking. You had a couple of 3s out of 10, in my opinion. Absolute disgraceful performance. Mentally, wasn't there. Physically, wasn't there. And thought because we got the red shirt on, or we're not the Arsenal shirt, I'm sorry, that would be good enough. I mean, looking at Southampton, even though they beat us, I don't think they deserve to beat us because they were just as bad as us. I think they had 2 shots on target.
Yeah,
that was one of the worst Southampton teams I've ever seen, and yet we didn't look like beating them. We didn't look. I wish the referee would have blown up after 3 minutes. Go, yeah, this ain't good enough, boys. It's 0-0. Go back to your dressing rooms. I'll see you next year, because that's how bad it was. I mean, the Southampton supporters loved it. Of course they did. So they nicked 3 points. We didn't deserve to win. Don't get me wrong, but I can't believe we're playing against a Southampton team who are bereft of any ideas, and we just couldn't score or command the game. Command the game. It wasn't just because possession. Where was the possession? It wasn't in the penalty area. It wasn't in the last 15 yards, was it? It was nowhere. It was in the second third, if you like. And any team can do that. It's poor. It was like Man City with the possession without the firepower. That's exactly what we were the other day, and we've seen it before, and we'll probably see it again. I hate to say.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned mentality actually there, Melvin, and that's a good point, because we don't seem to have any sort of winning mentality in the team, do we? Especially when, Thomas Partey is missing, and, Kieran Tierney's missing. We don't have anybody else in that team who seems to have that winning mentality. In games like this, that, sometimes that's the difference, isn't it, between winning and losing? And we don't seem to have that at all, do we? A young team, nothing on the bench that we can bring on to change things. And it's not really looking particularly rosy at the moment, unfortunately. I mean, Adam, what did you make of the fact that Arteta seemed to learn from his mistake about putting Xhaka at left back against Brighton? He changed it. He put Xhaka back in midfield and gave Nuno Tavares another opportunity at left back. He kind of learned from that a little bit, which is good to see that he's maybe realised the mistake and done something about it. But it didn't really work anyway, did it?
I think in that aspect, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think we had this talk a couple of weeks ago. I think he shouldn't have dropped Tavares against Brighton, personally. No. So I think it was only right that he come back and made that, the way the team was set up was a lot better. But, that doesn't take away the fact that we were clueless. And I think Melvin touched on it earlier, mentality-wise. We had such a weak and poor mentality as a team. We had no one who was willing to take leadership. And I was kind of hoping that Xhaka would, being back in the middle where he could kind of stamp his presence a little bit more, where he would actually do that. But again, he seems to struggle a bit more without Partey. I think he really misses Partey when he doesn't play. And, there's only so much he can do, because I think him and Partey have got a decent understanding now where, that they do each other's donkey work, and he hasn't quite got that with Lacazette yet. But, I mean, Tavares, he wasn't our worst player. I did think he got caught out of possession a lot, though. He definitely seems much more comfortable going forward than being a defender, which we discussed before. Yeah. But there was many times when he was in the centre. Like, he's supposed to be a left-sided player. There was many times when he kind of drifted into the centre and then kind of forgot where he was supposed to be and was looking over his shoulder. And I was thinking, like, you're a professional player. Like, I coach 2 football teams, and like my under-13s team do that, and it drives me mad. Let alone 20-year-old professional player. That was like, what are you doing? Like, you can't really teach that at that level. Like, where that you are on a pitch. But it was so frustrating and so disappointing. I thought, like, we needed a performance of some way to, after the last 2 results, and we just didn't get it. And I agree with what you just said about the goalkeeping situation. For me, they were kind of bread and butter saves. He made them look good. He did. He made them look spectacular. If you look at the Saka one where they're saying, "Oh, great," it was straight at him. Saka literally had half of the goal to aim for, but he decided to aim straight at him. I mean, yeah, he had to make the reaction, but it was still straight at him. And I think the Xhaka one looked good, but it was going wide anyway. I thought it was kind of drifting out that way.
Going wide. Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, like you just said, it was a poor game of football for both sides. Very, very poor. And I think we didn't have our leaders on the pitch. Tierney or Partey. I would have liked to have seen more from, your Ben White, your Gabriel, and probably Xhaka as well to kind of lift the side around you. But they didn't seem on it. They just did not seem mentally switched on from the word go. And when Saka missed that chance, that was it. I thought, you cannot squander chances like that when we're not scoring goals. It's clear to see that we're not, a free-flowing team this year. And when you miss chances like that, there's only one way that game's going to go. And we switched off, and they took their chance. And that was that. I mean, the second half was, terrible. I thought absolutely terrible from both sides. It was just an awful game of football. But, going back to the original point, yeah, he probably did make the right decision learning by his mistake, but it still didn't really help us as a team.
No, it didn't. Unfortunately, the issues are deeper than just one position and moving one player around, unfortunately, as we've seen. I mean, Stan, what kind of, there was some, towards the end of the game, and I've criticised Arteta for this in the past, he doesn't tend to go for it. In this game, he brought all his attacking players on, took the two fullbacks off. So at one point, we had basically 6 attacking players on, probably for the last 10, 15 minutes of the game. And yes, we didn't create any chances, particularly any good chances in that spell. But for me, while that was a positive step in a way, we looked like we had no plan, no shape to the team whatsoever. It was just everybody was all over the place. And it's all very well bringing all your attacking players on and try and get a goal. Yeah, that's great. That's what we needed to do. But there was no structure. And I don't know, it seemed to fall apart at that point for me, which it shouldn't have done because he's bringing attacking players on at the right time in the game. But there was no plan. It didn't seem to be a plan behind it, did there? Or did I maybe miss it?
No, I think he was basically throwing the kitchen sink at that one. And sometimes Wenger used to do that as well. When he was really chasing a goal in an important situation, he would just throw the kitchen sink at it. That's all he can do with what little that we have. But looking at the game as a whole with Southampton, for me, I think what we're seeing is it hasn't been a surprise to me, and I've been saying this on other podcasts well before the transfer window, is that if you're going to have a profile made up of the player age that we have, players like Saka, ESR, Martinelli, even Odegaard to an extent, I don't think should be playing 38 games in the season. Let's say they're fit for every single game. They should be put in the squad and taken out. Just because of their age profile, they're just not there yet to give you consistent performances. And when you consistently field these players, you will get performances like we saw at Southampton. I just think it's a natural product of it. And it worries me that if we do lose players like Lacazette and Xhaka, that their replacements come in and they're 20 years old, somewhere between the ages of 20 to 22 years old as well, which a lot of the players that we're linked to seem to be. Who's holding players' hands and shepherding them through games? I mean, I've always felt that putting Gabriel and Ben White together from the very beginning was a mistake, because I still think that both of those players are still learning, as good as they are individually, but there's nobody next to them to hold them through and take them through some of the bad times. So they're not learning from anyone. There's only so much that you can do in training that you can learn in training. I think a lot of learning also comes from in-game situations. And I just fear that we don't have, it's nice to have a young profile, but we are really missing proper experience. And the experience that we do have aren't pulling their weight, because Lacazette has given up the ghost, in my opinion. He's not even doing the simple things. He's not even trotting to the near post anymore. So you can't really count on him as a leader. So as disappointed as I am with the Newcastle game, and I don't want to sound haughty when I say this, I'm not surprised, because I've been waiting for this to happen. We just don't have enough.
No, we don't. You're absolutely right. I mean, we don't have enough. The squad depth is nowhere near big enough. But as well, what you said there's 100% right. The experience is not there. Everybody said that it's getting rid of the dead wood and rebuilding this, that, and the other. Yeah, well, fair enough to a certain degree. But a rebuild isn't just getting rid of all your experienced players, bringing in half as many kids and leaving big massive gaps in the squad. That's not a rebuild. That's completely mismanagement of the whole club. And for the team and the squad, it's just ridiculous. And this is the result of it now. 1 or 2 injuries, and we look like a mid-table team, because that's basically what we are with what we've got. And people need to maybe our expectations were lifted slightly because we happened to sit in 4th place a few weeks ago due to the fact, one, we was on a good run, winning games we would have probably expected to have won, while other teams were dropping points, and we took advantage of that briefly. But ultimately, over a 38-game season in the Premier League, we're nowhere near where we need to be if we're going to take that step to get back into that top 4 at this moment in time with what we've got. And that's the reality of it. And it's come home now in the last couple of games, last 3 games. It's become glaringly obvious exactly where we actually are. And maybe it's a reality check for a few people. We're getting a little bit carried away with top 4 or whatever. Maybe people realize actually at this moment in time with what we've got, with this squad of players, and possibly with this manager as well, which we'll come on to, can we go forward? The mentality situation, what we said before. I mean, James, I did want to talk to you about Eddie Nketiah. I know you're a big fan of his. He did start the game, his first start in the Premier League for a year, and he barely got a kick. And I don't blame him for that. That's not his fault. He's a striker that needs a bit more service, and he tried to do what he could do. But what have you been making of him? I mean, he did come out today. I don't know if you saw the interview that was a podcast that he did. Very interesting, actually. I really enjoyed that. But a few interesting points that he made. If he's not playing regularly, how can he get any form going? And it's true, he comes on for 10 minutes here and there. He starts a game for the first time in a year in the Premier League. What did we expect him to do? Come on and get in a hat-trick straight away? I mean, what did you make of his performance over, and what are you making of his comments that he made? Because I know you're a big fan of his, aren't you?
Yeah, it's mainly a gimmick that I use to wind Neil and Jack up on my podcast. Actually, it's just a running gag that we've got. Okay. I'm not. I used to say I was the president of his fan club because I knew it used to wind him up. So, but yeah, no. For me, he's a player that belongs in a 4-4-2. I think if you were to get him at, say, Crystal Palace or maybe a Brighton, and you chuck him up there with that Mateta that done us the other week, or even Benteke that can knock balls down to him, he'll tap him in all day for fun. But I mean, yeah, he did start the other day, and there was that nice little, there was that nice little move that he had, and he showed a bit of pace, which, to be fair, when you've watched Lacazette, who, like we've said, doesn't even, sometimes he's on the halfway line. When, for me, it's an old quote, but success is going from failure to failure without losing the sense of enthusiasm. And I think all the enthusiasm is completely gone. I mean, we've gone from the previous tactic of give it to Kieran Tierney and we'll cross it at nauseum to going, oh, well, I can't do it from the left-hand side, so I'll do it from the right. But then if you look, I'm told this is a guy that, like Unai Emery, I was told, got the job on a PowerPoint presentation, and he gives them all these USB sticks and DVD. Apparently, this guy's analysis. And I always believe you can do paralysis by analysis. You've got to let them play it. But, you said it the other week when about the game against Man City. He wasn't there, and look at the performance because they were allowed. That Stuyvenberg didn't shout at them as much and try and micromanage it as much. But for me, I think it just completely was set up wrong. They had a goalkeeper that's about 6'8". You had 2 6-foot+ centre halves, and we're just crossing the ball, and that's bread and butter for them. And like everybody's mentioned here, people today, when I went back to work, they went, "Oh no, for some of those saves, Fraser Forster." I went, he was a goalkeeper that let in 6 last week. If he couldn't make saves like that, he'd be on the transfer list. They'd be loaning him out now. I mean, this is a guy that was marvellous for Celtic. He's always been, a good keeper at that sort of level. But no, people were saying, oh, he always turns into prime Buffon against that. I'm like, no, they were saves that he had to make. Like Adam says about his kids' teams. If he had his goalkeeper not making saves like that, I think Adam would be looking at putting a new one in. He'd be dropping him and replacing him with somebody else. But the way it just lacked anything. I mean, Odegaard all season has been linking up with Saka on the right of him superbly. But I'm going to put Martinelli on the right and I'm going to put Saka on the left. to help Tavares more, which, okay, I can sort of see. But I'm like, it was working for so long. It took him ages to swap them over again. And then, like you say, you put 6 attackers on, and you still create absolutely nothing. It's an absolute mess. The only way to describe it is it's a bloody mess. And on Tavares, I thought positionally he was a lot more aware of where he needed to be at certain times. But yeah, he did drift central and everything else. But Ben White all season I've stuck up for him. But he was diabolical the other day. I mean, to roll over like that, it's the 43rd minute. Don't feign injury and try and waste time in the 43rd minute. Like, if we're 1-0 up in the 90th minute, do what you want. But I'm like, it's still 0-0, mate. And then Gabriel pushes up. He should be turning around, going to him. Get up, mate. We've got a corner. So when Gabriel pushes up, because Ben White's laying on the ground over there, he plays them all onside, and that's where they get their goal from. And that's again, if Adam's schoolboy teams do that, it's diabolical. It's childish. That's absolute childish.
Yeah, but you see, if in Adam's school teams, you can understand why they would do that, because they maybe haven't learned properly yet because they're only young. And that's our problem. We've got 2 young central defenders. Stan made that point just before. You throw them 2 together, and individually they're okay. Usually, they're both capable players. We know that. But sometimes you need that experienced head there. I personally wouldn't have got rid of David Luiz this season. I would have kept him for that reason, actually.
A few people said that. I mean,
I would have probably done that, but anyway.
Yeah, Odegaard, I thought was the best of a bad bunch, but even though he didn't pull up trees himself. But at the same time, he let me down a little bit because he had the armband on. And I'm like, right, you're one of the favourites to get this next season. So show me something. And when Cedric took those couple of free kicks that were awful, he started to stand up. He started to stand over him as well. And then he backed off and let Cedric take. I'm like, you're the captain. You coach him, mate. I've got armband. You're what 6-7 years older than me, but I take rank. Jog on. I'm hitting it.
And I'm better at doing it than you.
Fair enough. Let him take the first one if you want to. But when he messed up the first one, the second one we get, he's exactly in the same position.
Yes.
Why are you letting him take that second one as well? Yeah. That's just ridiculous. I mean, that is schoolboy stuff, and even a schoolboy team wouldn't do that. You'd say no, you messed up the last one. Someone else is going to take this one.
I mean, he's one of these ones that's being touted for his leadership ability. I'm like, well, you've completely sort of whooshed yourself out of that.
Yeah,
I was expecting a bit more from him. I thought he should have gone to him. No, I pull rank here. I'm having that.
Yeah, he certainly should have done the second one.
He scored a clutch free kick against the Burnley game. After we scored, they offered nothing and we dominated it. But I mean, at the time, he scored a really important. I'm like, like I said, it's just a complete mess. It's just all a mess.
It is a mess, and unfortunately, the fact that Odegaard was made captain in this game, and as you said, he seems to be one of the forerunners to be permanent captain next season, and he's only very young himself. And yes, I'm not saying he hasn't got the potential. Tony Adams was young when he was made captain of Arsenal, but he hasn't got those leadership qualities that I think we need on the pitch. Clearly, he hasn't, and he didn't have on Saturday when he was captain. And he's not going to learn that in the next few months, is he? Before the start of next season, I don't think you've either got it or you haven't. I think when it comes to that leadership, like Tony Adams, you're either born with it or you're not. And you can maybe try to learn it, but it's never going to come natural to. I don't think to Martin Odegaard, and I don't think he's the sort of captain right now that this club needs to go forward. There's only one choice for me, and he'll never take it on, as he said in his interview himself, and that's Xhaka, of course. He's the only lateral leader we've got left in the team, and that's a problem in itself, isn't it? We have got 1 or 2 comments already. Terry says, good evening, Richard, Magic Melvin, Adam, James and Stan. And Terry says, most of our players don't seem to have any pride or motivation, and they're playing for the Arsenal. It's getting embarrassing. Yeah, 100% agree with that. They don't at all. Sam says the board understand that we are a broken fan base, hence why Arteta comes out with, you're not a real fan if you don't support what we're doing. We all need to wake up and demand for a great coach. To be honest, Sam, and I've said this for a while, it seems as though at the moment there's a lot of Arteta fans, and clearly not Arsenal fans, because they don't want what's best for Arsenal. They just want their mate to keep his job, or they just, I don't know what they're doing. To me, if you want what's best for Arsenal, you want somebody better. We should demand more. We're Arsenal at the end of the day. You know, we should demand the top quality, everything at the club. And the owners don't want that. Clearly, they're not interested in making us successful again. And as fans, need to be more, demanding of that, because the more that we just accept, of course, Arteta wants us to say, oh, you're not a real fan if you don't support what we're doing, because it's his job at stake. And if we turn on him, he's out, because there's no way back from that once the fans turn completely, as we saw with Emery. So I don't know, it's a total mess at the moment. It definitely is. And unfortunately, I can't see a lot changing very quickly, because it seems as though the board is settled with what they've got. They're quite happy to plod along, let Arteta get a team of under 18s, which is what he wants, because he can't deal with experienced players, and see us just drift further and further away while all the other teams come properly. And that's what I can see happening, unfortunately. And unless things change quickly, I can see the next 2 or 3 years being no different to the last 2 or 3. Only the end result will probably be worse, because other teams are going to strengthen more than we are. So we're going to drop further away. Does anybody really care? I don't think they don't seem to. Not many people do. And if you do care, or you're vocal about caring, you're negative, or you don't support the club. Go and support Man City and this, that, and the other. Well, no, I'm sorry. I want more for Arsenal, because I know what Arsenal's worth. They're worth more than what we're getting at the minute, and that's how I see it. And it does kind of leave me on a little bit. Actually, I do want to get you guys' thoughts on this cultural thing that the club are trying to do, paying a company who knows nothing about Arsenal to teach everybody at Arsenal what it means to be Arsenal. It's like, what? We can't afford to buy a centre forward. We can't afford to strengthen the squad. We've got a load of kids in the team. We had to pay to get rid of players because we didn't want to pay their wages. And now we're paying an outside company to tell everybody what it means to be Arsenal. I mean,
yeah. Well, maybe if whilst we were in a pandemic and all those people that had worked at the club for nearly 50, 60 years, they didn't sack them. These new lot who are probably not even Arsenal fans and have just took the jobs because they were advertised on LinkedIn or whatever online and thought, oh, that sounds cushy. I'll have a bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's stuff like that, Yeah.
It's just madness that they're actually wasting this money on, I can't understand where this has even come from. How on earth do they think that that's going to work? This is a company that have been done branding for Burger King, right? This is what we're doing. This is a level that we've gone to. This is what they're doing. Getting a Burger King branding company in to say, oh, this is the Arsenal way. What is the Arsenal way? What do they think? No, we know what the Arsenal way is, but what do they think the Arsenal way is? This is the problem.
Burger King says have it your way, so the way I want it is probably we're all different, aren't we?
Well, yeah, I suppose so. I mean, Melvin, for you personally, if anybody knows the Arsenal way, it'll be you, because you've been around at Highbury and everything else a long time before any of us. I mean, what do you make of that whole situation where they're getting this PR company essentially in to tell everybody what it means to be Arsenal? Why aren't they asking you?
Because he's just moved, isn't he? They don't know where he is.
Oh, they can't afford him.
It's embarrassing. You know what it's like? It's like having a local. It's like having a local Italian restaurant. We're going for years, and they say, you know what we're doing, gentlemen? We're getting a few people in to tell us what Italian restaurants really are, to show us what it's really. You go, what? I'm not going there anymore. I thought you were the Italian restaurant. I thought all what you were doing was correct. What's it all about? I mean, we are. It's so. When I read it, I thought it's gone back to April the 1st again. This is obviously, or someone who hates the Arsenal having a dig at us, winding us up, giving fake news. And then I read it again somewhere. I thought, no, this is true. This is true. Yeah. It's. Oh my God! It goes so much against the grain. I thought that our manager's supposed to know what it's all about. He's supposed to explain what it's. I mean, when you have players like Lee Dixon, who came from Manchester to start with, they get it. They come into the club, they get it straight away. They ain't told it, they get it. You have people in there here. You have people that have come through the ranks. They learn it straight away. You don't do it from reading a book. Right? You can watch all the videos or whatever you want to do. It's just in your heart. It's in your DNA. You either know it about the Arsenal or you don't. And it's ridiculous. I mean, a very quick story about how crap it is. I used to work with a geezer, and he had his accountant's son come into work with us. and he's going, oh, Mr. So-and-so, I won't say his name. I can understand what you're doing, he goes, but is there a book I can read to get it right, to really show me how it's done? He says, a book, an effing book? He says, you won't learn it from a book, mate. You've got to do it. I said, look at that geezer over there. He pointed to a young boy who's sitting opposite. He goes, see that guy there? He can read all the books in the world. He still won't be able to pull a bird, right? 3 months later, that one who couldn't pull a bird was going out with his daughter. It just shows you. You've got to be very careful. And it's a ridiculous, ridiculous situation we've let ourselves in here. That's a true story. It's an absolute ridiculous situation. We have actually, surely we should spend money on the pitch, eh? That might be a good idea. Surely we should spend money getting the right trainers. I'm not having the geezers round Arteta. I've always said, who are you? I mean, who are they? I mean, do they actually have any input? Have they ever actually, do they agree with everything he says? Because let's face it, he's made some good decisions, Arteta, but he's made some howlers, amateurish decisions. And you telling me all those people around him are going, you know what, boss, that's a blinding idea, that. Let's just change the whole team around because they're left backs out. Let's move 6 people around. Are you telling me the people that's supposed to be with him on the training field every day are going, that's a block? No, they're obviously going, they're either going nothing, saying stum, or they're going, yeah, that's not a bad idea. There's got to be someone there to go to him, are you sure are you sure that is the right way to do it, Mikel? Because I think that might not be the right way. And we haven't got that, obviously, because if he had people around him, he's got about 84 around him anyway. If he's got people around him to actually challenge him, then I think we'd be in a lot better position. I'd rather spend money having people like that around him than bloody culture. Absolute. Oh my God. Oh,
Melvin, you got to remember one of the guys he's got in there, Melvin, Steve Round, went in to Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic after Man United just won the Premier League, showing them footage of Sylvain Distin and Jagielka at Everton going, Moisey and me want you to play like these two. And that's Rio Ferdinand straight from Rio Ferdinand straight from that went, I'm going QPR. See you later. I don't care anymore. I'm going back with Harry. I'm going to move back down south and I'm going to play with Harry. It's like we've just won the Premier League and you're sitting there making me and Nemanja Vidic watch footage of Distin and Jagielka saying that's how you want us to play. These people are lucky that they've still.
Who were probably.
Remember, Moisey didn't take him to West Ham with him. He went, no, I'll have Nolan and whoever else. So they're just so happy that someone's gone, oh, yeah, I'll give you a job. They're happy to be, they'll listen to whatever he says because they know that they're not going to be taken anywhere else because no one else takes them seriously. They're just.
Vidic and Ferdinand were probably the best international pairing, defensive pairing in the world, or most certainly in Europe. For a good few years, weren't they?
Oh, 100%. Vidic is, you want to talk about that rivalry later on. Vidic is the one Man United player that if I could have had him in an Arsenal shirt, I'd take him. I loved him more than some of the other ones that were playing through the 90s. He was everything that you'd want in a defender. Everything.
Yeah, he was.
100% he was. He was brilliant. Yeah, he was. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing for me, I mean, Adam, this whole culture thing that's saying, the culture of Arsenal, to me, that died when the Hillwoods went, when David Dean went. That the club had that history and tradition, and you're never getting that back, no matter what they do. You can't get that back now. It's gone. We've got American owners. The club basically is run like an American business, and we're never getting that back, no matter what, however much they spend on these people. I mean, do you think that's probably right, or do you think that this might end up doing some good somewhere down the line? I can't see it personally.
I can't see it doing any good. I mean, I was like Melvin. The first time I saw it come up on Twitter, I thought it was a joke because I didn't pay any attention to it. I saw this thing flash up and I thought, some other crap going around. And then I saw it again. And I think the third time was when I actually read about it and I couldn't get over it. I was like, this has got to be a piss take. I mean, literally, I was like, we cannot, it's embarrassing. Like, I've had other fans, mates come to me and go, what's all this about? And I was like, I don't know what it's about. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the thing what annoys me the most on two scales, I think you're right. I think since KSC bought the club, gradually, the Arsenal's kind of been rinsed out of it year by year. It's been diluted more and more. And there's two ways in which you can go. Like, for me, they run it as a business now. So let's not try and make up something that's not. We haven't been the Arsenal as we see the Arsenal for many, many years, which is a real shame. Now, if they want to get that back, why not talk to some people who have been in the club already? Edu was an invincible. Surely he knows a bit about how the club was. There's many players who, ex-players who would, do it for free, come back into the club and, educate players or educate staff and do stuff about it. Many legends, people like Lundberg who got kind of ousted from the club. He'd love to come back, even going back further.
Treated disgracefully, in my opinion, Lundberg by the club. Treated disgracefully.
Yeah, completely, and you've got other players would come back in a heartbeat and help out. But also you've got things like, AST, Arsenal Supporters Trust, who could be consulted. And again, they wouldn't exactly charge money to be consulted. They'd be like, yeah, we want to be involved. We could actually, they're involved a bit more than they were 2 years ago, but nowhere near to the level that they probably should be. So when you've got like all these supporters trusts and, fan groups out there, why are you going and spending money on a corporate company who was started up by a Chelsea fan to tell us how to be Arsenal? That just stinks to me, and I can't get over it. And it like you just mentioned, to do that just screams corporate. Straight away, corporate. It's not a football club, it's a corporate. And that's purely what it is. And I hate it. And I'm never going to be behind this, no matter what. Whatever's going to come out of this, I do not know. And for me, it stinks of bloody Amazon again. It's like someone at Amazon just had a little whisper. I tell you what would be a good idea. Why don't we hire these PR people to come on board and bring them on board? The fans will love that. Yeah.
You know what? You mentioned Amazon there, Adam, right? And I've been thinking this actually, more and more so over the last couple of weeks. When you look at some of the dramas that's happened at Arsenal this season, when, funnily enough, Amazon are filming for a documentary that they want people to watch. These things are happening that have never happened at the club before. Some really unusual kind of things, and this is the latest one. And I actually think that you could be right. I think Amazon might well be behind that.
It's like the Kardashians or the other where it's like slightly scripted. It's like this is the storyline. Say what you want as long as it goes down this line. Great, brilliant.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually been happening, because none of it makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense, and people on the outside.
We'll be the only club who get a second season out of it.
Well, I think we will. I don't want a second season because this one's not gone too well, has it?
I didn't want the first one.
Well, you're probably right. They probably will. They'll want to come back for more because it's going to get the most views ever, isn't it? Because it's just drama. And I think some of it may not be natural drama. It may be, as you said, maybe going down certain routes that's been pre-planned, possibly in certain things. And this to me is just, it's the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever heard in my entire life. I've seen some ridiculous things in football. Some things from our club and some things from football in general. But this literally is. And I can't believe that any Arsenal fan older than probably 6 years old actually thinks this is what the club needs, because everybody knows, the fans know what Arsenal means, right? Most fans know what Arsenal means. That the ex-players, you said, but they don't want ex-players, because what they want is, I believe, and this is maybe the next point when it comes to Stan, is I think they want to create a culture that they think is what the club should be, as opposed to getting the ex-players in for the real culture of the club, because they don't want that. They want us to create a new culture that they can create. I wouldn't be surprised if Robbie from AFTV gets involved somewhere along the line. They'll get him involved. What do you think the fans want? What do you think the club means? And they'll get him involved. I wouldn't be surprised if they employ him to do some stuff with it. I mean, it's madness that they're not using it. If they really want the culture of the club, get people that were involved in the club to do it. That's what they need to do, not get, as Adam said, a Chelsea fan, set up a company. I mean, what is going on? It's just bonkers, isn't it? I mean, what are they doing?
So then basically what you're saying then is that it's not going to be an exercise into, into the heritage and, bringing that forward. It's going to be more of a rebranding. This is what we are moving forward. I never thought of it that way, because I first heard about it yesterday on Chronicles for Laguna. Harry mentioned it. And I was like, really? And the first thing that came to me was like, when I think of Arsenal at the moment and Mikel Arteta, for all of maybe what the failings are at the moment, the one thing that I've been sold on, and that's just by snippets that you see coming out of Arsenal, is that the culture's pretty good, that the team has never been more together. And I was under the impression that that was probably one area that was, doing all right. So I'm surprised to hear that we're getting this outside company. I mean, maybe we're panicking too much. Maybe it's basically just one of them operations where you get a spring-loaded picture frame. Once every 2 weeks, they send you a poster. First one will be a couple standing out looking over at the sun setting. The following one, it will probably be a whale's tail coming out of the water with some profound saying, to do is to dare, or something like that. It's probably one of them jobs. But on a serious note, I mean, whose idea is it? Who's come up with it? Is it Mikel Arteta that's put this forward? Is it the people above him that's put it forward? And what's it based on? And why has it come out to the public? It sounds very odd. I mean, for that, for a club as old as we are and the history that we have, I mean, surely just get Martin Keown in for half a day.
Yeah.
He tell you what the deal is.
Tony Adams.
Yeah. So I'm surprised that that's the one area where that it sounds to me that there's a problem. I thought that was the one area that we'd fixed.
But as I said, is it about them trying to educate people onto the rich history of the club, or is it as I think it may well be, as you said, a rebranding almost like the new badge that we produced a few years ago? Is that what it is? It's going to be the new Arsenal culture, not the previous 140 years of history. It's going to be a new style Arsenal for the future.
It's a good question.
End of the season, rebrand as the London Gunners.
It will probably result in a mission statement, which will be put up everywhere, a profound mission statement, and a series of bullet points of what the values are. That's what this will result in after maybe 3 months of these people mooching around, and then that will be put forward as to these are the values of what Arsenal are moving forward. I don't think it's the more I listen to what you just said there, Rich. I think it's a rebranding. It's not about older values and building on those foundations. It's new. This is what we are now moving forward.
Yeah, because I don't think the club, almost like at the moment with the way that the direction the club's going, it's almost like they want to detach themselves from the history because the history is too big for them to deal with. Our history is too big and too great, and they can't live up to that anymore. So they're thinking, well, the only way we can change it is to get rid of that history, create a new culture for the club, if what they're calling it, and then that weight of expectation from the past has gone, because we're never going to get that back. We knew that when we left Highbury, realistically. I think we hoped that we were wrong, but I think we all knew that the heart was out of the club. I mean, James, what have you made of all this? It is. Whoa. I just cannot get my head around it at all. I don't think any of us can. We're stuck here thinking.
Well, for me, from the perspective I'm looking at it, I think we've gone from being champions of our league to just being champions of waffle. It's just all it is. It's literally, it's just all waffle. I think it's not necessarily for us as fans. I think it's more so for potentially staff that they've got in the club now. Because like I said, they're all completely new because they gutted the ones that had been there for so long out. And I think as well from, Melvin, and you go every week. And luckily, Melvin, you've took me a few games this season. And I've said to you when I got there, when we were outside, I went, Melvin, how long's all this paint been chipping away and everything? All these murals are all smudging and all. And you were like, oh, it's been a while now. So they've taken all this on board, and apparently they're completely decorating all that and the concourses and everything ready for the next season. And I think they're going to, somewhere in between all this, announce that Mikel has got his extension. I know that's going to cause a major blow up, but I do believe he is going to stay. Maybe to a detriment. We'll decide on that when we get nearer the time. And the whole thing is, like you said, it's a complete rebrand from a point of view of the badge, and that will stay the same because we've already seen what our kits look like. But it's going to be, a whole new ethos. It's going to be a new look at the ground, and it's going to be, this is our new, because. All right, Stan was the financial backer, but he's had enough and he's put Josh, and I'm Josh Kroenke, and this is what I think Arsenal's going to be, and it's either you're with me or you're against me. That's what I believe it is. It's a completely whole new, like someone's put in there, we're going down the Disney route. Yeah, it's like a whole new marketing ploy of what Arsenal is and what they're going to be for the future. And you say that there's fans there's a massive amount of fans that are your age, even older, my dad's age and everything else, that went to the Emirates when it started. This is a soulless bowl. I don't want to go anymore. And there's now a contingent of fans that are even younger than me that have never seen us win the league. Now, I don't disrespect fans that are abroad. I don't disrespect fans that are younger than me and everything. But this is all they know is top 6, maybe top 4, top 2 8th place finishes. So they're already in because they're like, well, this is all I know. So you've already got that key demographic sorted. It's just like I said, convincing everybody else. No, to be fair, us legacy fans, as we've been called before, that's not who they want.
No.
They want the person who, I've just got off a plane, I want to watch a football game. Oh, Arsenal, they're quite good. Oh, okay, I'll go there. Spend all the money in the shop. Spend all the money on the food that's crap. Buy the beers that are lukewarm. That's what they want. They don't want people like us going anymore.
No.
Because we're trying to hold them to account.
And it's exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's almost like they want to try to almost wipe out the history that we've had because it's they can't live up to that. They'll never be able to live up to that. And they're not even going to try. They've given up.
It's all about making more money. I'm like, if you want to make more money, have a side that wins. I've seen a video today of David James getting ripped to piss because he said if Haaland costs 75 million, why aren't Arsenal knocking on the door? He's 100% right. Because we will spend on a striker this summer more than 75 million that we'll overpay for one because clubs know we're desperate. We'll probably go to Napoli, and that Osimhen's a brilliant player. I wanted him when he was at Lille, funny enough. I said, get him and Pepe together. They're brilliant. But we'll pay about 80 to 85 million for him. We'll overpay. We'll overpay.
We're paying 75 million to his PR company, probably. So, instead of buying Haaland, we're just spending it on them instead. Over the next year.
I mean, I can't blame Haaland for wanting to go to somewhere that's going to match his ambition. He's arguably one of the next biggest things in football. And it's like, well, I don't really want to be playing conference football.
I mean, it does make me laugh when you see these pictures of Ødegaard and Haaland together, and everyone's going, "Oh, Ødegaard's talking Haaland to come to Arsenal." No, Haaland's talking Ødegaard to leave Arsenal and go with him. That's what's happening. That's the reality of that conversation. Haaland will be laughing at Ødegaard. What on earth are you doing playing for that load of shit? That's what
I will say I respect him because apparently his agent wanted 650 grand a week, and he's gone to his agent. No, I'll accept the 500. Don't be trying to. He's like, I want to go Man. He's like, I want to go Man City. Don't you dare ruin this for me. Don't you be greedy and ruin it for me. I'm like, I respect a player that's actually gone. No, I'll take the 500 grand a week low ball offer. But he's gone. No, I'll take the lower offer, thanks, because I want to go.
If when he comes to England, he's going to struggle to live on that, isn't he, with the gas prices and everything else. So he'll soon have a shock when he comes here, won't he? And he has to start plugging his electric on. Del Boy at Ghana TV says they get David O'Leary in. I mean, again, they don't want people like that, do they? Because they don't want people to understand the history of the club. Because it'd be perfect, David O'Leary. Of course he would, but unfortunately, that's not the route. I don't think that's the route the club are looking at all. Because there's plenty of people out there that could do that job, as we've said, without getting this outside company into this. It's ridiculous. How can you get an outside company to tell you what the culture of Arsenal is? It makes no sense. It's a complete contradiction, isn't it? The only people that know what the culture of Arsenal is are Arsenal themselves and the people that understand the club, not someone from outside that you're paying. God knows how much you're paying them. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is just ridiculous. And, it's just odd for me that exactly a year to the day that they announced the European Super League, they come out with this idea. Exactly a year later, it's like, is April the 18th the new April the 1st? I don't know what's going on. Is that what's happening? Because 2 years in a row, they've come out with these ridiculous ideas that just turn the fans completely against what they're trying to do. Just absolute madness. And it's just, it actually just, the more I talk about it, the more it just gets me angry. And I just want to go to the Emirates and just throw eggs at it or do something because it's just ridiculous. Their owners have got to go. They've got to be kicked out of this club, right? They've got to go. But that's the problem with this club, is the owners. Get some proper owners in who get a David Dean type figure in who cares about Arsenal, wants us to win trophies again. Get someone like that involved and start doing it properly. And then we might get somewhere. Don't get all these people from outside, all these, like you said there, James, waffle. That's what it is. It's all a load of old bullshit. And it's, unfortunately, our club is absolutely full of it at the minute. And it's just weighing us down, and it's stopping us from doing anything more than just muddling along in mid-table in the Premier League, which is where we are and where we're going to be, unfortunately, I think, for the foreseeable future, while we've got this whole regime ruining the club. It angers me so much, because we shouldn't be in this situation, because we're a bigger and better club than that, actually, or we're supposed to be, but maybe we're not. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be, does it, at the minute? But anyway, I mean, so many things that's gone on. It's kind of, we don't know where to go next, really, with it all. I mean, I did want to look at, obviously, Lacazette's comments. Obviously, he's club captain. We know he's probably going to leave. For him to talk about missing the Champions League. Well, first of all, mate, you've never played Champions League football for Arsenal. So if you missed it, you missed it before you came to Arsenal as well, because you've never played it with Arsenal in the whole time you've been here. So, I mean, Melvin, I know he was asked a question in an interview and he's going to give an answer, I suppose. But again, the second captain this season is stepping out of line in what should be expected of a captain of a club. I mean, what is going on? I mean, Lacazette obviously is not going to sign a contract. He's going to leave. It's quite obvious that we can see that now. Should he play again for the rest of this season? Should he stay as captain, or what should happen now?
First of all, a lot of our captains in recent years have been chinos, are they? Captain in name only. And he's another one of them. You can't imagine the old captain saying anything against the Arsenal like that publicly, whatever question had been asked. They'd give it a swerve, whatever they actually genuinely thought. And we would have respected them for that. So, no, should he play? He shouldn't play on his basic ability, apart from anything else. He's just not good enough, whatever he says. If he was knocking in 3 goals a game, he said that, I'd go, all right, fair enough. You're a different class, mate, to what we are. You're keeping us in the top 4. You're doing this for us, doing that for us. You're probably right. It's not nice to say it, but I can understand. You've got a bit of fat in your body to do it. He's got no fat on his body to say something like that. He's not been pulling up trees at all. He's been a passenger most of the season and a bit longer. Everyone goes berserk because he gets the ball and he gives a pass. Wonderful. Got geezers running around. He gives them the ball. Absolutely wonderful. I mean, it beggars belief. What about the amount of times he miskicks a ball? I've seen him miskick a ball so many times. You think he's got his boots on the wrong feet. You really do. And people say he gives a lot of effort. Well, I'll give effort a 4 an Arsenal shirt, to be honest with you. I'll give a lot of effort. He's just not good enough. And for him to come out like that, I mean, what team, in all seriousness, is going to actually, who's in the Champions League, and want to go and buy him? What team in the Premiership, in the top, all the Premiership actually, apart from teams coming up from the lower division, want to buy him? What are they buying? A name? They're not buying a quality centre forward, are they? So for him to say he wants to get back into Europe, the only chance he's got, I suppose, is if Paris Saint-Germain or someone like that thinks, you know what, he's not going to cost us anything. We put him with the rest. He might do a job for us for a little bit, and if he doesn't matter. We've got so many other great players. Yeah, he'll play a couple of games, and he might come on with 10 minutes to go in one of the European games. He ain't going to start in a European Cup, in the European Championship for any team for any given period of time. Those days for him are over. We never had for Arsenal anyway. I think it's a liberty what he said. Again, a captain showing no respect. How many more captains, are going to show us no respect? It's bad enough when an ordinary player does it, but when the captain of Arsenal does it, it shows you how diluted the captaincy of Arsenal's become over the last few years. So I've got nothing more to say. Actually, just again, very disappointing.
I mean, maybe again, you see, it comes back to this culture thing, doesn't it? The culture of the Arsenal captain, that's disappeared somewhere along the line, along with everything else, isn't it? Because as you said, the captains don't seem, the last few captains don't seem to respect the club, don't seem to respect what it means to be captain of Arsenal. And I mean, I kind of agree with you to a lot of that, Melvin, but I actually think that Lacazette has been his, the way that he's been forced to play has actually stifled him. Actually, I don't necessarily. I think he's got more to give. I think he can still score 15 goals a season or maybe more, playing in the right system in the right kind of team. And he maybe feels that himself, and that's why he doesn't want to fanny on coming back to the halfway line constantly. He wants to be getting into the positions to score more goals, I think, and he's getting frustrated, and that's one of the reasons why I think he wants to leave now. He may well have left anyway.
He's a big boy, Richard.
I think he's
sorry, Richard. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
Why don't he speak to the manager about it then? It's not as if he's some 18-year-old spotty kid who just got into the team. He's a very, very experienced player, and he's the captain. If he can't talk to the manager, I'm not happy about this. I think I'd rather play X, Y, Z. Then I'm sorry, then something's wrong, isn't it?
Well, maybe that might explain why he's not been training for the last week, why he's not been playing why he didn't play the last game, why he's probably not going to play tomorrow. Maybe he has said, maybe he's finally reached the end and he said, I don't like this. I don't want to play in this system. And Arteta said, well, you don't play then. Simple as that.
I don't think he's playing ever again. There's too much coming out. There's all these different, you take them all with a pinch of salt, but seeing that photo of him on Saturday where he was out in the restaurant, I'm like, even if it's a positive test, he's not breaking the law anymore. We all know what the law is. But it's
a statement in its own, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bad look. Yeah, it's a bad look because it's I mean, you look when Ramsdale went up to congratulate Leno after the Villa game. Maybe he couldn't travel with the team because they're like, no, it's a positive test and we don't want you around the others. But I don't know. It just didn't look good to me. I think again, he's another one that, like I said earlier, the enthusiasm, he checked out. He's checked out. And you got Eddie doing that podcast today. He might start up front tomorrow. But, is he really going to do stuff against Rudiger and all them tomorrow? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, I mean, we don't have any other options. That's the problem that we had. This was what January's left us in this situation. We know
it's tough. It's tough because tomorrow you got people that are going based on that performance of Gabriel and Ben White at the weekend. You sacrifice one of your wing backs, or fullbacks even. Bring Rob Holding back, play them as a 3, and then put Saka and Tavares as wing backs and do it that way. Go Martinelli down the middle. And bring Pepe and.
But James, what you're doing is you're thinking about it from a logical football perspective. You're not thinking about a rigid, I can't play any other way perspective. That's the problem that you've got there. I totally agree with you. And with a flexible manager, that may well be what will happen. But we've got an inflexible.
Well, it was the 5 that got him to the dance to begin with, weren't it? When he first come in, he went, "I've got to go to a 5 because they're not good enough defensively." And then it was somewhat to the detriment of the attack after we won the cup. And now, again, he's apparently this defence is better than the one that was there last season, but they've conceded more goals.
I like that stat. I do.
You got Sideshow Bob and a malnourished Bellerin, but this one's better apparently.
Well, apparently, but anyway, you see, unfortunately, you were talking like a football manager for 2 seconds, and we don't have one. So that's never going to happen, is it? I mean, Adam, should Lacazette play again? Regardless of his so-called COVID situation or whatever it is, when he's fit, which I think he probably is anyway. Do you expect him to play again this season, or do you think that once again Arteta's fallen out of another senior player, and we've seen the back of Lacazette in an Arsenal shirt?
No, I completely agree with James. After the weekend, I thought he's not ever going to play for us again, and I thought that's that. And do you know what? I was all right with it, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, I've got no real issues with Lacazette as a player. I don't think he's ever really hit the heights we would have liked. I mean, he hasn't scored over 14 goals in a season since he's been with us, and I think we bought him as a number 9 who could score 20 plus goals a season. He's never really delivered that, and you can argue about has he been played in the right position. The fact of the matter is we bought Aubameyang because he wasn't doing it. Really, if Lacazette was scoring 25 goals that first couple of seasons, we wouldn't have bought Aubameyang. We bought him for a reason, because Lacazette couldn't deliver it. And has he been a decent servant? Yeah, he probably has been a decent servant, but he's never been that world-class striker that we needed to lead that line. And with the stuff that's going on, I hate the fact that it's another one of these captains following the trend of being outspoken. And it just seems like that's the way. Like, if they fall out with Mikel Arteta internally, they feel like they have to then express it externally. And I don't know why they do it. I just do not get the logic in it. Like, you don't have to do that. It doesn't paint you in any good light. He just probably thinks along the lines of like, oh, this will get me a move. No, your contract's going down anyway. Like, you don't have to be forceful of getting a move, because you only got to wait a couple more months and then you can go, wherever you want to. So that kind of it, leaves a bitter taste. And there's going to be another player who leaves us with a bitter taste in their mouth, where, there's not many players who have left us recently who you can say they went well. Probably Danny Welbeck, Aaron Ramsey a few years back, Rangers. Since then, the bigger players who have left us have all left under a cloud, and that's a real shame. I hate seeing players leave under a cloud, no matter who they are.
Who created those clouds, though? Who's created them? Who's the common denominator in all those players that's left? Who's the common denominator?
Well, yeah, you're right. Arteta's the common denominator in there, and I get that. But like, part of me's thinking that Arteta's obviously set his stall out. This is the way it's going to be, my way or the highway kind of thing. And he falls out with the bigger names, which is possibly one of the reasons why we have got a younger squad now, because of that, one of those reasons. But if that's going to be the way, that's going to be the way. We've either got, I think Stan or James said earlier, I think Arteta's here to stay. I don't think he's going anywhere. So as supporters, we've got a choice of whether we get behind it and see where it takes us, or we rebel against it. Personally, I ain't got the energy to rebel against it, so I'll support whoever's managing our team at that time, because I've got no choice in the matter. But it is a real shame, and it is a worry that Arteta doesn't deal with the bigger personalities and the bigger names. And that possibly could be something that stops us competing for bigger names in the transfer window. And it's possibly one of the reasons why we are going after the youngsters, not just because we're building a team of cores, but also because, you know, they don't know any differently. They can't, you know, haven't had the experience of being able to push back and haven't actually got their, you know, wings, so to speak, yet to be able to push back. But yeah, I don't think we'll see him again, unfortunately. It would have been good to see him have a send-off. But again, whether it's Arteta, whether it's him, it's another player whose reputation is going to be tarnished, you know, which is unfortunate, because I'd much prefer to see a player go, wish them all the best, whether it was a good or bad move. I never like seeing players go, because you never know, you know, later on down the line, you know, whether they come back in one capacity or another. But that bridge would have been burnt then. So, but it does worry me though, because like, you know, like you said, like we are then left with Eddie, or do we move Pepe up front, or do you put Martinelli up front? You know, the options are dwindling, or do we just take a punt and give, you know, Beerif, who I've heard is playing very, very well, been under 23s this year, a punt, you know, give him some experience. Who do we go with? Like you just said, like James, Eddie up against Rudiger and that tomorrow night, I don't fancy that much. But then again, would I fancy Lacazette against them? Maybe not. But it worries me, like with the games we've got left, we haven't got an easy run in. You know, I mean, we haven't. Some would say we've had an easy last 3 games, but look what that done for us.
They were the 3 easier games, weren't they? All ones that we had left, and we've just lost them all.
On paper, but you know, football's not played on paper, is it? But yeah, it is worrying, and you know, I'm not too optimistic for the remainder of the season based on things like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I'm not too optimistic about the rest of the season either. I wasn't maybe anyway, but even less so now with everything that's going on. I mean, Stan, you must be excited about Nketiah starting against Chelsea, as we've mentioned. I mean, he's obviously going to score a hat-trick now that we've said that, isn't he? I mean, the fact that this has come at a time when we have got no other real options, and Lacazette does this at this particular time, is just madness again, isn't it? I mean, again, if Amazon sent him an email to say, you know, do something exciting to make people want to watch the TV show. I mean, what's that all about with that as well? At this time of the season, when we need everybody who's fit and available to be ready to play.
I find it all quite odd that in the last week we've had interviews now by players that are either leaving and going to sign contracts, or are, you know, they're a player that kind of splits the opinion in the fan base. So we had the Xhaka one, which took me a while to be able to sit down and watch it. And what I noticed most about the Xhaka one was, why was it every time that Xhaka was on screen, that was all in black and white? Every time it was other footage, that was in colour. Every time Xhaka was on the screen, they had an ominous soundtrack, an audio track, which sort of and I'm like, I thought, am I watching something called Netflix? It's overly produced for the message that he was trying to get across for me. And then we've had one by Lacazette, and now also Eddie Nketiah. I'd rather be looking, you know, I'd rather they let players that are going to be part of our future and they're here for the cause go out and do their verbiage. I'd rather be hearing from them. I've not watched the Eddie one yet. I've only seen a couple of clips just before we came on air because I only just found out about it. But I mean, I kind of admired Mikel Arteta with the way that he handled a couple of players. You know, what happened with Mesut Ozil, I was glad to see the back of him. There's a part of me that was quite glad that he took a solid stance with Aubameyang. But it does seem to me that there does seem to be a bit of a trend where for whatever reason he falls out with a member of the personnel. You know, someone said to me once, like, you know, it's how do they explain it to me? It's like if you get up in the morning and you're on your way to work and you see someone and you're talking to the bus stop and you walk away and you think, well, he's a bit of an arsehole. When you get to work and someone says good morning to you and you say hi and you think to yourself, well, he's a bit of an arsehole. And then at lunchtime your boss calls you into the office to look at your work and isn't pleased with you and you think he's a bit of an arsehole. The chances are that you're the arsehole, not everybody else. The chances are that you're the one that's actually got the problem here. And I'm beginning to see a little bit of that with Mikel Arteta. One of the lads touched on it earlier. He doesn't seem to have anybody around him who will challenge his decisions in any way, whether it's in a friendly way or quite serious. He seems to have a lot of yes men. It's like when you see these celebrities when they go out on a photo shoot on a red carpet and you think, bloody hell, did no one say to them before they left the house, you can't go out dressed like that. Look at the state here, you know, because nobody wants to rock the boat because they are who they are, right? And there's a little bit, seems like there's a little bit like that.
They want to keep their job. That's what it is. They want to keep their job as being the little minions. That's what it is. They don't want to cause a fuss, do they? I mean, I call it Michael Jackson syndrome because Michael Jackson made a lot of terrible decisions later in his career and nobody around him advised him better. Paul Gascoigne is another example. People around him let his life go off the track rather than helping him, right? And it's that kind of situation, isn't it? And I think Mikel Arteta has got people around him that only care about their own jobs and not really bothered about Mikel Arteta or the future of the club. And unfortunately, I totally agree with you 100%. And I think it was Melvin said it before. That's definitely the case. He's got yes men around him that just want to agree with him to keep their job.
And they can't sing Dirty Diana either. So it's
who knows? Man in the mirror, mate. I don't know. I mean, anyone who seems to stand up to Arteta loses their job. So you can understand why people don't agree.
You've got to remember this guy is a disciple of Guardiola, right? When Guardiola first went into Barcelona, he said Ibrahimovic, boom, Ronaldinho, Eto'o, and then he moulded it in his way. I think he's sort of the same. You know, he can't handle, like we've said all the way along, he can't handle these big characters. Guendouzi, for all the flack that I get, I believe there is a player in there. I really do. Especially when I look at the games that we've just had. And the lack of the options in there, because he's a guy that you brought him on in chaos, and he seemed to love it. When the game was going a bit all loopy, he was brilliant. He was the kind of guy that you were like, yeah, chuck him on. He might be able to do something. And after that, with Brighton, where he's grabbing him by the throat and bragging about how much money I've got compared to you, you just sit him down and go, mate, like you've just said, Stan, stop being an arsehole. And, stick to your football. You're a good player. You're not a bad little player, Guendouzi. Just chill out a bit, calm it down. He just took it the completely opposite way.
I mean, Guendouzi was that sort of Emery's last kind of spell at the club. He was like man in a match about 3 or 4 games in a row, Guendouzi, wasn't he? He was brilliant. Yeah. And then, Arteta comes in and suddenly he doesn't play anymore. And the common denominator for me, as Stan said, is for me, that's 100% what it is the manager's the problem. And yes, the players sometimes have caused issues, but as a manager, you've got to manage those players better. You've got to be able to manage. There's always going to be problems. No player's going to be 100% lovely all the time. There's going to be issues. Players aren't playing. They're not happy. You've got to deal with that, and you can't just get rid of them because they disagree with you, or they don't want to play the particular role in the team that you expect them to play because that's not what they're suited to, and that they want to speak to you about it. You can't just kick them out of the club. Otherwise, we're going to end up with no players. We're going to end up with literally 11 players. That's it.
And we let them all go for free as well. That's the other kick in the balls. We've never got any. Yeah, exactly.
We've had to pay some of them to leave. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Pay the manager off. Pay the manager off. It's that safer way. Save a lot more money. Just pay him off. Get a proper manager in, and then we can deal with these problems properly. Maybe that would make more sense. But the club clearly don't care about wasting money, do they? Because they're wasting money by their consent over the thing. So, I mean, all that madness has gone on, and it seems like the Southampton game was about 4 months ago with everything that's happened since then and now. But funnily enough, we've got 2 games to play this week as well, which is a bit, a lot to take in. We start, of course, tomorrow night with a nice, easy game against Champions League winners, FA Cup finalists 2 seasons in a row. I wonder how they managed to go from being below us when they had Frank Lampard to being European champions. So obviously Chelsea away. We did win there last season, of course, 1-0, a game at the end of the season when Chelsea had their minds on other bigger prizes at the time, and we managed to sneak a 1-0 as our first win away at Chelsea for nine visits prior to that. So we don't have a great record there in general, do we? They did beat us, of course, at the Emirates back in our first home game back in August. I know the first 3 games don't count, of course, because it doesn't sort of suit people. You know, we don't count the first 3 games, but we did lose to Chelsea in those first 3 games. And we play them again tomorrow night. They've just reached the FA Cup final again. And sometimes you win a semi-final, your next game, you're a little bit flat because, you're coming down from that. It could be a good time to play Chelsea, actually, despite all of the stuff that's going on at the minute. Not that there's often a good time to play them. We did maybe get a bit lucky last season in the same reason. I mean, Melvin, what are you thinking about this? Because, they had a tough semi-final. They've got a final to prepare for. They are pretty much guaranteed the top 4 place anyway. Are they going to be that bothered about this game, Chelsea? Do you think it's a good opportunity for us to get a result against the odds, maybe a little bit?
Well, I suppose to coin a phrase, never have a bet on football. If you put all the equations together, put it through a computer, it comes out we're going to get slaughtered. So there's every chance then we could actually defy the odds and get something. I mean, he used to do it. Wenger used to have certain games. We had a bad run, and all of a sudden, for no reason at all, which didn't make sense, we beat some team that we should never beat. It could be one of those things. I don't know how we're going to score. Come off someone's backside or get a penalty or deflect. I don't know. But it doesn't. I can't see us getting anything. But then again, it's football, and you can't always predict football that much. Otherwise, we're millionaires, wouldn't we? So no, I just can't see it. It's a shame. I mean, it's really to a degree. If you'd say to me, any team in the Premiership that we're going to play, would you be confident against? I'm in that rut. I'm in a rut now, saying no. I can't be that confident. Every team we play could beat us. And other teams like Chelsea, Liverpool, obviously, Man City, obviously, will beat us. And it's just got into that. It's got into that thing now where even the kids are not performing, and they've been great. They've not been performing. And right, Ben White the other day, he was one of the players I thought I'd give a 3 to if you asked me. What's happening? He's got his international game and his cap, and he suddenly thinks he's made it. I don't know what it is actually. I don't actually know. Richard, can I go now because my wife's asking me if I could just finish off a few things. No, but I'm sorry.
No, go on, Melvin.
Thanks for inviting me on. Love it as always.
You've got a lot of stuff going on at the minute with you moving.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, sorry. See you, Adam. See you, Stan.
Get all sorted soon. So that's Melvin. Obviously, he's been moving house today, so he's got a lot going on, and he's sort of going on sort of sideways as well, which was blew my head in trying to sort of look at him there. But anyway, but no, I mean, I personally think if there's probably not really a good time to play Chelsea, but if there is, I suppose it's just after they played a semi-final, which they've won. So, we've seen it happen before. You win a semi-final, your next game, you're maybe not quite at the races, are you? Because you're distracted by the upcoming cup final stuff. I mean, Adam, what are you expecting from this Chelsea game? And I say, do you think that maybe the fact that they did play that cup game at the weekend might help us tomorrow, or do you think that that's still going to be too good for us regardless?
I think I'd like to think so, but I think that's a bit more wishful thinking. I mean, Chelsea are not going to want to lose against us. Let's be honest with ourselves. I mean, they had a little bit of a sticky patch, and they seem to be, putting a few results together when they need to. They've got that third place, haven't they, Chelsea? They're not really threatened from getting lower than that, really. And let's be fair, they've got enough to beat us in our current state. And they're going to want to beat us. They are going to want to beat us. It is a London derby. Some people will say it doesn't mean anything, but all I want to see from us again is a bit of a reaction. If we have a bit of a reaction and a bit of a fight, who knows what can happen? Who knows? It's like Melvin said, it's football. Anything can happen. But if we can start on a positive foot, unlike we have in the past 3 games. And I think that's been our downfall the last 3 games. So how we started, very, very pedestrian, very, very slow. We can start on the right foot and get in their faces and get at them and not worry too much about what's going to happen down the other end, but just push and push. Then we've got to go for it. We've got no reason not to. And that's what I want to see, a reaction. We've lost 3 games. Let's see a reaction. Let's see a little bit of a fight. Let's see some leaders on that pitch. Let's just see something to give us heart. And even if we go and lose, but we put the effort in, that will be something, because that's something that's been missing the last 3 games, is that heart. And if we can have that heart back, who knows? A win, would be amazing. Do I think we're going to get it? No. I think the best we can hope for is a draw. I hope they prove me wrong. I really do. But, a performance with a bit of heart is what I'm after.
I mean, yes, I do agree with that, and we want to see a reaction. But is this really what we've come to, where actually if we win or we lose, as long as we put up a fight, that's a loser's mentality.
At the moment.
Yeah, that's where we are. I agree. That's exactly where we are. How have we got to this point where it doesn't matter if we lose, as long as we play well, as long as we put up a fight. As long as we don't lose 6-0, as long as we only lose 2-0 to Chelsea, it's not too bad. You know what I mean? I mean, you're right. 100%. That is where we are. 100%. That's where we are. And I think we'll all be reasonably happy.
Obviously, Chelsea done Southampton 6-0. They've done Palace. I mean, I saw the Real Madrid game last week. They were really good against Madrid.
Yeah.
They won that match. They went out in the tie, but they were really, really good. And they were. I hate to say that about Chelsea, but they were unfortunate. And if they come out at us like they can do. But the thing with Chelsea is, like Arsenal, they can kind of score a lot of goals in quick succession when they need to. And the thing that worries me is they do come out that first 10, 15 and, maybe put a couple against us. Like, that could completely destroy us. So I just want us to be strong. And if you can kind of weather that first 10 or 15, anything can happen in football. And I'd love us to get a result. I really, really would. Like, couple of seasons, we've done them 1-0 last year, and it was 2-2 the season before, weren't it? When Martinelli scored that goal, like that was a really good performance. And then it was like we hadn't been playing well, around that time, and we got a result 2-2 against Chelsea, which felt like a win then, with Martinelli getting that goal. Maybe something like that could help us for the remainder of the season. Give us a bit of a benchmark, to push on, but. I'd love to be more confident. I would love to be more confident, but the last 3 performances haven't really given me any confidence or any reason to be confident. It's the lack of goals that worries me. It really does. If we can't score
the threat of a goal, even. The threat of a goal, really, not just the goals themselves. And it's you're right. I mean, it is a worrying time. I mean, Stephen in the chat says 7 games left, in 5 of them no chance. He says. Can see us getting points against Leeds and Everton at home. Well, no, Leeds are playing well at the minute, actually, and under their new manager, so that won't be an easy game either. I'd say Man United on Saturday. We'll come on to that in a minute, but I'd say that's probably a slightly easier game potentially than Leeds maybe at the moment. But anyway, we'll see. Terry says there, Chelsea won't want to lose to us. Thomas Tuchel wouldn't be able to live with the shame of being outsmarted by Arteta. Well, we'll see. Neil's in the chat as well there, Neil. He says, sorry, I'm late. Yeah, no worries at all, mate. You've missed some interesting stuff. I'm sure you can catch up with it later on. But, I mean, Stan, what are you anticipating from the Chelsea game then? Are we at the point where basically we said, well, that's okay. As long as we play all right. Doesn't matter if we lose 5-0, but just play well and fight hard. And this is where we are. It's what I feel as well. Is this where we are, really? Or can we actually go there and get a result and put a statement down and say, you know what? Those last 3 games are behind us. We're going to finish the season well like we did last year because we finished strongly last season.
I like the first option. Well, I don't like it, but it's the first option that you said, which is, I think, exactly where we are at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah. Old Tommy Tickle is a shrewd guy, and I think he's going to know exactly what he needs to do against us because we haven't got any variety at the minute. I think we basically know what team that we're going to be putting out. It's basically going to be a carbon copy of one out for the last game, and I think that we might be in for a rude awakening against Chelsea, and I think that we got off lucky that Southampton couldn't finish their dinner and didn't have a lot in them either. But I think Chelsea will have a lot more about them. And I think it could be the game where we have a high-scoring match against us, a standout game like that, which doesn't then bode well going into the game following that. I think where we are at the moment, we've been creaking along and on some occasions just been managing to squeak by. But you can't go on for that forever. And I think that we may have just reached a tipping point. And I don't want to sound like a negative Nelly because I'm the one that usually, with the fan circle guys, we do our upset picks once a week, and I never pick a team that we play, never. And then funny enough, I don't remember anybody else on the panel ever doing it either. But last week I was close to it. Last week I was close to thinking that the upset pick could be Southampton against us, but I didn't pick it. but I had it in my heart that we were going to get a humbling there, and I think it's going to happen again. Unfortunately, at Chelsea, of course, I'd like us to get something out of that game. I hate Chelsea. Oh, there's it goes without saying, right? It's them lot. They're an horrible mob, but Tommy Tickle's got them playing really well. He's got them playing really, really well at the moment. So I worry tomorrow could be a humbling.
Yeah, and I think you're right to worry about that as well, because potentially when you look at the two teams, you look at the two managers, and it only really screams at you one result as far as I can see, and that's a home victory for Chelsea. That's what it's screaming at for me. But, as James said earlier, maybe I'll tell you, I agree with you, Stan. We are very predictable in the way we set up the team, the way we play tactically, everything else, and people know how to play against us because they know what we're going to do. And we've been found out. I think Arteta's had some decent spells at times, but now you can kind of see he's come up in the last 3 games against 3 coaches who are, quite young coaches, but they're clever coaches and they can read the game and they've watched Arsenal play. They know what we're going to do. But obviously, James thinks we're going to play this different formation, 3 at the back. We're going to put Martinelli up front. We're going to throw all these strange things in, and old little Tuchel's not going to know how to deal with it because he won't be expecting it, will he? I mean, is that what's going to happen, James? And we're going to end up winning this game 3-0 because he bamboozled Tuchel with his fantastic new tactical genius plans that you came up with for him.
No, look, I agree with Adam. We're either going to get completely slapped, and I'm talking about really horribly, don't want to watch it slapped, or we're going to shit house a draw, and we're all going to sit here and go, how have we done that? And that's what I truly believe. I've believed since we've lost to Southampton that these next 2, we're winning one and we're drawing the other, but I can't tell you what way round.
That's quite optimistic, that, James. Actually.
Yeah, I know, because we've lost in batches of 3 all season.
Yeah.
And then after that, he's had these little tiny runs where they've just pulled it through. And I think that's because the heat starts to go off him and it goes towards the players. And these players are like, whoa. I don't want none of that on me. And they seem to. So I think somehow, some way, we might shit house a draw here. Sorry, not a win, but I think we might. Yeah, I'd love to see Tavares do a Savinio and Winterburn. That's the main one, because just for him to have that moment for himself. I'd love him to do that, and in turn, and Mikel. And you remember when David Ginola scored against someone when he was at Villa after John Gregory called him fat and he took his shirt off and started flexing in front of him. I'd love Tavares to score and just turn to him and be like, right, hook me off after 30 minutes now, mate.
Yeah. No, that would be good.
To shine. Yeah,
but and like you said, some left backs have had some good moments at Stamford Bridge, haven't they, for Arsenal in the past?
Yeah, so I mean, Bellerin scored that goal in that 2-2, didn't he? It sort of went through everybody. So, I mean, I just, like I said, it's going to, like Stan said as well, it could be a complete, I think, humbling. I think it could be worse than a humble. We could be completely bending the knee here, badly, or we might be able to crap a draw. I can't see us winning at all. I love Neil as much as the next man, and his 3-1 prediction to it. I don't know if Harlow's got really good weeding at the moment or something, but I can't. Yeah. If it is 3-1, then I'll get Neil to do my Euro Millions on Friday, because I can't see where we're going to get 3 goals from with this lot at the moment. I do not see it. And when they're going to concede 3 goals.
Well, I can't see us getting 3 goals against Chelsea's defence.
Yeah.
Michael's in the chat. He says, evening, gents. I think Tuchel will let Lukaku have a run about tomorrow. Yeah, he probably will, and will cause havoc. I bet he has the most touches of the ball than he's had all season. I have Wenger 1,000th game vibes. Of course, that was when we lost 6-0 at Stamford Bridge. That game. And,
6-0. That's horrible.
That was horrible, That was a horrible game. Neil says he's a good manager, everything going on with the club. You have to admit he's done a great job with the players. All things. No, he has. I mean, everyone was wondering, when there was all that stuff going on with the ownership of Chelsea and stuff like that, everyone was wondering what would happen, how it would affect them on the pitch. And after that, they started on a really good run, didn't they? Winning games, and they've reached one cup final. I agree that they were unlucky to lose to Madrid last week, wasn't they? They probably deserved to go through. They're 3-0 up away in Madrid. I mean, what a great performance that was, and they got caught out in the end. But yeah, I mean, It is going to be a really, really tough game. Neil says Eddie will do a Carno and score a hat-trick in the last 15 minutes. Well, yeah, maybe he will. He's due a goal, isn't he? Certainly. He's due one at least. So, well, everyone's due one. Really,
Neil believes he won't start then. So my Martinelli up front might be happening.
Well, the three at the back maybe might be what we'll do then. If Arteta watches this show, he maybe
I'm literally only saying that based off what I saw from White and Gabriel at the weekend. I'm like, you two look like you need someone else in there to sort you two out, because that was, I don't want to go back on it, but that was clown hour for me. I thought they were amateurish.
No, you're right. I agree with you, definitely.
And Holding seems to play against Chelsea for whatever reason. Ever since
he does actually,
Ever since he had that Costa game, he always seems to want a bit of Chelsea. So
yeah, he does. They're a slightly different team now. I suppose Lukaku plays, maybe he can, mark Lukaku out of the game. Maybe that could be an option, perhaps. But
yeah, it's better than watching Mari try and mark him again.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Definitely after the other time. We need a score prediction then, Adam. What are you going for? 3-1 like Neil, or what are you thinking?
1-0. Go on, I'll try and be a bit more positive. 1-0.
No, 1-0. So that's the sneaky draw that James was talking about. Then, what are you thinking, Stan? I'd hate to kind of think what you're going to say.
I'm going to try and keep it respectable. I don't think we're going to get anything out of the game, unfortunately. I think we might lose by about 3 goals, like 3-0. And as Adam said earlier, I look at the team and I think, well, who's scoring our goals for us? Who's putting in those bread and butter goals that you expect, someone to come up with a half chance? There's no one there that looks like they could tuck away a half chance at the minute.
No, you're right. I totally agree with you. James, then what are you going? Are you going for the sneaky draw or are you going for the heavy defeat? Which one are you going for?
Yeah, see, Adams took my 1-0 because I can't go for Desmond's because I don't think we're going to score twice.
I can never predict the loss. I can't.
Yeah. Oh God. See, I don't think it's going to be 0-0. So no. I'll have to go 1-1 as well. I'll try and keep it different, but yeah, I'll stick with 1-0 as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we'd all take a 1-1 right now, actually.
Oh, of course I would. Yeah. If you could guarantee me that right now, I'd put your hand off, Richard.
No, I would as well, yeah, definitely. I mean, I personally think we'll lose. I think it'll probably be 2-0 at Chelsea. I think they'll do enough to beat us. I don't think they'll overexert themselves because they've got other games, bigger games to come, and I think they'll do enough to beat us, and it'll probably be 2-0, and we'll be facing 4 defeats in a row, personally, but I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we do sneak a draw or better, but I personally can't. I agree with Stan. I can't see where the goals are coming from. I cannot see how we're going to score against this Chelsea team. Defensively, they're very sound, solid. They don't concede many goals. I just can't see how we'll score. 0-0 is probably the best we could hope for, but can we keep them out for 90 minutes with the way we've been defending recently? I probably think not either. So, unfortunately, I can't see anything other than a defeat, unfortunately. But football's doesn't always go to plan, does it? Neil says Eddie will do it. Oh, we had that one before. He said Martinelli will run the defence ragged and Eddie will come on to finish them off. Well, there you go. So at least Neil's a little bit more positive. Terry says can't see a scoring, just depends how much Chelsea want to embarrass us. Well, I mean, they'll just want to win the game, won't they? Tuchel's very professional. He'll just want to get the 3 points and he won't care if they beat us 1-0 or they beat us 6-0. He's not bothered. He just wants to win the game. And I believe they will win the game, but who knows? Football doesn't always go to plan. So let's hope we can, you never know. They might miss 100 chances. We get a lucky goal on a counter-attack and sneak it. Who knows? But I'm not overly confident, I've got to be honest. Well, after that game, of course, we do have what used to be the biggest game in English football at the weekend, Arsenal against Manchester United. And we'll all remember a lot of the great games, of course, from the past. So many, really. But from the archive little sections, I just thought we'd maybe just discuss a little bit the rivalry between the clubs over the years, where it came from, and just maybe look at some of those great memories, because there's been so many against Man United, hasn't there, over the years? I'm going to set a little graphic there of the famous game at Old Trafford where it all kicked off, of course, when Van Nistelrooy missed that penalty. But the rivalry goes back a lot longer than that, a lot longer, doesn't it? I mean, for me, that I can trace it back maybe even perhaps even before that, when McClare missed that penalty in the FA Cup at the North Bank, and Nigel Winterburn had that kind of word with him afterwards, and it seemed to be from there. But even the season before that, when Rocastle got sent off at Old Trafford, I think Norman Whiteside, I think almost snapped David O'Leary in half, and Rocastle reacted and got sent off. And it seemed to be maybe George Graham and Alex Ferguson, maybe when they first kind of came in. Is that when it started from Adam, do you think, or was it maybe even before that? I mean, I can't really remember too much before that.
The one that always sticks for me, also, was the Battle of Old Trafford when we got those points deducted. We won 1-0, didn't we? With a really scrappy goal from a corner. That was 89, wasn't it? Was that the 89? No, that was
1990-91 season, wasn't it?
1991 season, yeah. That for me is, I think, where it's started for me. I think that after that, there was always bad blood after that game. It was the return game, though, where we'd already won the league, though, hadn't it? And it was a bit of a procession. But even then, like, United weren't happy that they had to actually clap us onto the field. I remember I was at that game, and I remember like it was very like half-hearted from United, and I think we won 3-1 or something. It was quite comfortable. But yeah, I mean, I think ever since then it just intensified. You know, the actual rivalry. I think before that, obviously there was some close games, but I think actually, you know, because we were obviously up there already. United were moving up then to be in the force that they were going to be in the 90s and the 2000s. So yeah, I think that was, for me, was when it first sort of started, that early 90s, and then kind of just intensified towards the end of the 90s, really. Once Wenger and Ferguson come on board, they were the ones who really kind of, you know, they didn't, I know they got a lot of respect now for each other, but they really didn't like each other at the time, you know. And then obviously you had the Keane Vieira, you had so many battles over the field, and I loved it, you know. And I still talk about it a lot with, like, you know, Arsenal fans and even Man United fans who I've got as friends today. Like, people say about Man City, Liverpool, it's not the same. It's really not. You see all them, like, you know, cuddling each other, high fives and all that lark. That's not a rivalry. You know, they'll be out in town in the evening, like, you know. Obviously, everyone remembers, like, in the tunnel at Highbury, Roy Keane kicking off, but, you know, Pizzagate, there's all that kind of stuff, and that probably happened a lot more than we knew about before the cameras were down there. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't think there has been a rivalry like us since then, and maybe there never will be, because football's changed now. Football's a lot more, you know, lovey-dovey, I like to say now. But, you know, you hear tales now about going back, and, you know, even with international breaks, when there was international teammates, they didn't get on, they didn't want to talk to each other, they played for their countries, but they didn't want to mix. You know, it was that kind of fierce, and, you know, unfortunately, United probably do have the better over us, and I think that the unfortunate thing is when they did want to turn it on against us, there's some real horrible results, but I do remember some real great results as well against them, you know. At Highbury and at the Emirates as well, we've had some good results, and it's always a good game. And yeah, it's not as maybe passionate as it was 10 years ago, but I think it still means, you know, stuff to the fans. It means a lot to me. You know, I'm looking forward to going on Saturday, early kickoff. You know, I'm looking forward to quite an intensity, hopefully, inside the ground. But yeah, I think that's when it kind of started. But, you know, there's countless games you could mention for this rivalry. There really is, and that's great. You know, I was trying to explain to my oldest son, who's like nearly 13, about Arsenal Man U, because he just does not get it. He's interested in football, but because he's not really seen United and Arsenal at the kind of top echelons consistently, he can't understand why we would have been rivals. Like, you know, and I've kind of tried to show him all these video clips. It's like, you know, he's not there yet, but one day he'll understand. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I believe, and I agree with you, that I think it is. There's not been, certainly in the Premier League era, there hasn't been a bigger rivalry between two clubs as Arsenal and Man United, and I don't think there ever will be now, because football's changed. It's never going to be like that again between anybody. And yeah, Liverpool and Man City is just a loving, essentially, isn't it? It's, you know, the two managers love each other, all the players love each other, and, you know, yes, they battle for the title every season, but, you know, it's not the same intensity, nowhere near. And, you know, you mentioned that game, obviously, the Battle of Old Trafford with a points deduction and it all kicking off there, but I believe that had been simmering away between the clubs for quite some time, and it just boiled over that day. And then it really, the rivalry then went into another level, didn't it, after that? But I think it had been bubbling away before that. I mean, I can remember, it always seemed to be, I mean, Neil put something in the chat about the 79 FA Cup final. The 79 FA Cup final. And, you know, yeah, I remember watching it on telly. I was only about 9 years old at the time. So, but that sort of thing,
it always seemed to have existed maybe between Arsenal and Manchester United somewhere along the line. And, you know, maybe it comes from the fact that, you know, two of the biggest clubs, two of the most successful clubs in English football, along with Liverpool. And I don't know, I always felt that even before that 1990 game, when it did kick off, that it'd been bubbling away anyway. There'd been, you could tell that it wasn't just a normal game. Whenever we played Man United, it wasn't just a normal game. It was something different. It was something special. And everybody wanted to win more than most other games. You know, the only other game I can compare it to is Arsenal-Tottenham for me. Even from when I first started going, the Man United game was the next game after Tottenham game, wasn't it? Where there was that real rivalry with the fans on the pitch and everything. It was, you know, that was what it was about for me. And
I mean, Richard, in the 90s, it was bigger. Because I mean, I know Spurs still haven't won anything now.
Yeah,
but even then, it was bigger. And I'll tell you what, you mentioned it a minute ago. On Saturday, that FA Cup semi-final was on the same time as the Premier League games were all on, weren't it? It was on at 3:30 when it should have been the 5:20. Yeah. Right? If you got Arsenal and Man United in that era from 91 to about 04, 05, maybe 07. If we got in a cup semi-final against them, they'd have played the rest of those games and we'd have been on at 5 because everybody wanted to watch it. Everybody.
Yeah. No,
because it was more than the football. You had a chance there of pugilism, everything, drama, everything. And people go, oh, but Sky hyped it. Sky. I'm like, no, it was not hyped. It was personal. You know, everyone thinks their wife's the best at home, stuff like that. You know, Wenger getting dirty, chucking in stuff like that. Neil put it in the comments. Schmeichel and Ian Wright. Keane and Keane and Vieira and Neville before Keane got involved. Bloody Solskjaer diving, getting Sol Campbell sent off, never touched him. Stuff like that. It was the, up their gaff, that 49th game, the way they kicked Reyes, Rooney diving. It was feisty. It was if you want a football game, we'll play a football game. But if you want to fight, we'll have a fight as well. It's up to you, whatever way you want it to go.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying there, James, actually really, for me, sums up why Man City against Liverpool will never be the same. Because in 10 years' time, no one's going to be talking about those games. Nope. Everyone still talks about them Arsenal Man United games. Everybody's talking. There's 10, 12, 20 games between Arsenal Man United that everybody still talks about now because of what happened in the games and how significant they were and everything else around. And not just even on the pitch, some of the things elsewhere on the pitch, obviously, like you said, the 49th game, loads of other ones. Literally, there's so many Arsenal Man United games that people will be talking about forever, and no one's going to be talking about Liverpool against Man City games. I can't even remember half of them now, to be honest. One
of the best ones I remember when I was a kid was the one where Beckham got the boot kicked out of him.
Yeah, and after the FA
Cup. I'm right. It was that you will never get two clubs like that in this division ever again. There is nothing like it. Nothing.
No, they never will be. You're right,
and that's why it still holds weight. That's why it still holds weight for me now. If I had a ticket for Saturday, I'd be ecstatic to be going because it still holds that to me. Two of the ones I circle in the calendar, always the North London derby and always Man United. Just because I live in Essex and there's so many Man United fans here, because that's where they all live, isn't it?
You're right. Yeah. I mean, there's a series on Netflix at the minute called The Last Kingdom about the Danes and all that kind of stuff. And, they're all fighting. And that actually reminds me of Arsenal Man United from the 1990s, actually. That's when they have them battle scenes, with all the axes and stuff like that. That's basically Vieira and Keane, isn't it? That's what it is. And they've made TV programs, and even the TV programs aren't as good as those games because they had everything, didn't they? Absolutely everything, those games. And it is a shame in many ways that now the game's kind of lost significance because of the fall of the two clubs where we are now, as opposed to where
we should both be ashamed of ourselves for letting the Chelsea, City and Liverpool in because we had the dominance of it. We should never have let them in. No, both sets of fans. That's something both sets of fans can agree of. We should be utterly ashamed that we let all these others catch up. Because we had the dynasty there. We had it good.
Yeah, but I suppose the good thing is it will never be matched again. So no matter what happens, it won't. We know that now, and it is a shame where it is now. But nothing can take away that. I say for me in my lifetime watching football, it's the greatest rivalry there's ever been. Arsenal Man United will always be that, And and I agree with you, probably even more so than Arsenal Spurs, just because Man United, we were battling for them, not only battling on a pitch, we were battling for the title, we were battling for the cups, we were battling for everything again. It meant everything those games. Against Tottenham, it just meant we could laugh at them down the road. That was it. It wasn't significant usually in terms of winning trophies, because what were they? Nothing. They never have been. So I agree with you. I think the Man United Arsenal games were the biggest game. That was the biggest game of the season every time we played them, and it was for them as well at the time. You ask Ferguson, he'll tell you. Roy Keane will tell you they were the biggest games for them as well, not just for us. That it meant everything, didn't it? Those games, you could see, and it's not the same now for anybody. Nobody gets that same intensity anymore. That obviously that game at Old Trafford when Van Nistelrooy missed that penalty. What happened at the end of that game? You're never going to see scenes like that again, ever. Between nobody, you just won't. And I missed that. I want to see that again. I want to see it all kick off. That's what I want to see, but it will never happen, because football's not like that anymore. I mean, Stan, how far does it go back for you then, this rivalry with Man United? I mean, we're a similar age. You must remember even in the 80s, could be quite a feisty game, couldn't it, even back then?
My first memory is probably the 1979 Cup final. I would have been about 11 years old, and probably watching it over the Adventure Playground with big bushy head Alan Sunderland running away, wheeling away for scoring that goal in the 89th minute. Yeah. But as an Arsenal fan during the 90s, I mean, like you've all just mentioned, that was the time to be alive, man. And the amount of times when I used to sit there in the 90s and I used to think to myself, imagine if I could click my fingers and just make Man United never ever existed, the amount of titles we would have won. Because it was us and them.
It wouldn't have been as much fun though, would it, without them, really?
But you know what I mean? They were just like that thorn in our side, and there would never be very many points. There would never be very many points between the spread either. And I mean, this is a time when Arsenal went from being boring Arsenal to where like we were like everybody's second team for a period of time. The amount of people that I knew that didn't support Arsenal, that used to say how much they always tuned in to watch the Arsenal games because of the way that we played our football. And it was the best time to be alive. I mean, the Invincibles came out of that era, right? That's straight. That's straight out of that era. And I mean, will we ever get another era like that again for Arsenal? That's what we're all hoping for as fans. That's what we all want to see happen. We want that excitement back.
Yeah, no, we do. And we would need to be doing better on the pitch, and then whoever we're challenging, we're going to get a rivalry maybe build up, whoever that might be, whether it's Chelsea, whether it's Man City, wherever it is. But I still don't think anything's going to come close to that. I agree with you. I think that 1990s period into the early 2000s, I suppose maybe we were fortunate being Arsenal fans and maybe Man United fans as well, that we were at the very peak of football at that time. Both of us going head to head for every single trophy, and in a way though, what you said, we would have won a lot more trophies without United being there. Of course we would. We'd have won the league 6, 7, 8 years in a row probably at one point, but it made the victories over them even more sweet because they didn't happen as often, did they? And that rivalry was so intense that those victories, even now looking back, probably most of the best games I've ever been to in my life were victories over Man United, just because of how much it meant.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's basically the way it's been, they're the most memorable games. And even some of the ones that we lost, the games were memorable. I mean, I'll never forget the FA Cup semi-final, 99, when Bergkamp missed that penalty. That's the greatest game of football that's ever been played. It's literally the greatest game of football that's ever been played. I mean, it was a privilege to be in the stadium that night. And unfortunately, it didn't go our way. But just to see, at that time for me, that was almost like the peak Man United. It was a peak Arsenal, just basically battering each other.
I can't watch it back. Every time when they do FA Cup and the intro package, the minute his shirt comes up, I switch it back when it's finished. Because I remember the 7-year-old boy that was crying his eyes out in the front room. I can't. It's PTSD. I can't watch Ryan Giggs score that. I look at Dixon and I'm like, just kick him. Just kick. Why did
Seaman go down so soon? Why did he stand up?
That's what Neville says when he watches the Overmars one back. He goes, "I can't believe I didn't just nut him and take the red card. Should have just kicked him."
Yeah, but that was just an incredible game of football, and and those two teams at that time produced that every single time we played. There was never a dull game. It was never a boring game. Even if there wasn't many goals in it, there was always something that happened. I mean, that was a 0-0, the one when Van Nistelrooy hit the bar with a penalty. That was a 0-0 draw. but it had everything in it, that game, didn't it? Like, every single game did at that time. And I do miss that. I miss that a lot. And I don't think we'll ever feel that same excitement in those games against Man United when we beat them on the few occasions that we did. And we did used to beat them sometimes. But the joy that brought was just unmatched. If you could bottle that feeling and sell it for people to inject or smoke, you'd be a millionaire in a week, because that feeling is
that's what you need. That's what you need to be putting the money into, not this PR company. You need to find, you need to get you need to invest in research into that.
No, you do, exactly. But I mean, it's just that nothing. I say nothing will match that at all, and it is a shame. You know, we're looking forward to a game.
Rich, as you're talking about it, Rich, goosebumps.
Yeah, I did as well. You know, back of your neck and that. Yeah. It's just that was a fantastic time, and we're all fortunate enough that we experienced a lot of that. You know, actually live as well in the stadiums, and that's you know, that's something that no one can ever take.
Were you there for the game when I think it was the 2001-2002 double season, and they were in gold and black? And it was the one where Barthez rolled it out to Henri.
Yeah,
that's right.
And that ground was absolutely. I mean, I used to stay behind after anyway, because my dad, he was a big smoker. He was a big Marlboro Reds man back then, so he liked everyone to clear off, and then he could have his cigarette and watch the highlights, and then we'd leave the East End up. I'm telling you, that, like you said, the noise was unbelievable, and the other one like that is. And Neil put it in there again when Thierry Henry did that header after they were wasting the time. That's one of the loudest the Emirates has ever been.
That's right.
I think.
The Emirates one, that was a great one.
That exploded because they were proper. They just couldn't stop wasting time. And that was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, Liverpool, it was.
You see Liverpool turning them over 4-0 at the moment.
Oh, brilliant! that's what I love to see. I don't want Liverpool to win the league, but no. Good.
Yeah, it's 4-0, which is not really unexpected. Let's be honest. But yeah, I mean, some of those games, I'll say they will be in. You know, when Sky do looking back on stuff, always them games will be always ones that they show, won't they? Because it was just the peak. It was the peak of. I think it was the peak of English football, the peak of the Premier League. And as much as people might think that the league's more competitive or it's better, it's not. Absolutely no chance at all. That was the peak of football.
Well, I think as well is people get drawn into characters, and in the I'm talking modern time now, there ain't those characters anymore. I mean, we were talking a minute ago about how personal it was. Do you remember when we actually won the league in '98 and they went to Ian Wright and he went, "Keno, I've got one." That was the first thing he said in his interview, not about, "Oh God, I'm so glad." He went, "Oi, Keno, I've got one."
Yeah,
and that's because it was that level, it was that tense between both.
It was. I mean, you could tell that a lot of the players didn't like each other at all, did they? No. At that time, I mean, Vieira and Keane never liked each other. Wright and Schmeichel never liked each other, and you know, and that was real. That wasn't fake. It was actually that was really how they felt, and you could see. I mean, Vieira and Keane. Even now, if you just Google Vieira and Keane, and you just see all those images of them fighting on the pitch in all different games. It wasn't just one game it happened. It happened every single game they played against each other. They were always at it, and you know, it just kind of we don't get it anymore. It is a shame, isn't it? I actually feel quite sad thinking about that. Of how great that was and how shit it is now. And I'm not just thinking it's shit because we're shit now, but in general, football is not like that anymore, is it?
No.
You know,
asking Ferguson something about a comment that Arsene Wenger had made, and his response was, "I think Arsene Wenger should keep his mouth shut." That's how they spoke about each other. Like.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's what I meant. But that was great, wasn't it? You know, we loved that. That was brilliant. And you don't.
And now they get along. It reminds me of. You watch all them programs where they have the boxers that had proper big rivalries, and then they actually get them together when they're old and they're sort of decrepit, and they do have a hug and everything. That's what Ferguson and when Ferguson had these brain issue, a couple.
Ben Eubank.
But Wenger was like, "Oh no, I'm distraught if something happened. You know, I hope he has a full recovery." He's like, "I love spending. You know, I love spending time."
Yeah, but see, I kind of felt like that at that time as well when we heard about his. Because funny enough, that was just after when Wenger had been given that award at Old Trafford, wasn't it? When in Wenger's last season, when Fergie was at the game, and he gave him that award, and Mourinho was there looking like a tit. But Ferguson going. I think it was later on that weekend, wasn't it, when it happened to Alex Ferguson? And I was really upset by it actually, because although we hated him at the time and that rivalry was there, it's that massive respect that you have. All of those. But I mean, Roy Keane couldn't stand him. Every time I watched Man United play against Arsenal, I hated him. But now you look at him on the telly, and actually, I'd be upset if something happened to him, because you kind of got that real, because of what all those memories, all those great games that you saw, and he was a part of. All those Man United players, all of them.
You mentioned that as well, Richard, as well. I can't abide Roy Keane as a player when I was growing up watching. No. But I tell you what, even when I was a kid, that semi-final performance against Juventus in Turin is arguably one of the best. Adam, if you're teaching your kids and you've got one of them that wants to be a midfielder, you tell him YouTube. Roy Keane, Juventus in Turin. That is the most class performance of one man. One of the best I've ever seen. Yes. But I'm like, that's one of the best games I've ever seen from any player, any era, ever. He was unreal.
Yeah, he was a great player.
I think what brought the two managers closer together was the emergence of Chelsea and how Chelsea was taken over with Abramovich. It kind of made me feel that Wenger and Ferguson, even though they were mortal enemies, they shared similar values. And I think it was they kind of looked at Chelsea that it wasn't coming from a similar place. Do you know what I mean? There was no heart. There was no heart in it.
Competition.
There was no heart in it. It was all very mechanical when Chelsea first came in. Just threw loads of money at it. They could stockpile players. Buy this player, doesn't work. Even though he's on loads of money, it doesn't matter. We can just sit him on the bench and buy someone else. And that's not really sharing the values, I think, that Wenger and Ferguson, the place that they come from. And I think it brought them together.
Yeah,
that mutual respect for each other, right? Even though they disliked each other, I think they could appreciate what one another was achieving. They were doing it in the right way, in their eyes. Do you know what I mean?
I thought they brought more out of each other's teams as well, because Man United knew they had to improve to match what we were doing, and then Arsene Wenger wanted to try and improve us to catch up back to them and stuff like that. And I think they both pushed each other along, and that's why maybe but we both enjoyed so much success at that time, because we had each other to push each other against, and I think that's exactly what worked. It's funny you say that, Stan, about what they used to say about each other in interviews. Now you get Klopp and Pep basically just love each other. They just want to talk about how great each other is, and it's like, that's not a rivalry, is it? That's not a rivalry at all. And I don't know. I don't like that at all. Neil says there, Wenger mentioned it in his last game at the Emirates speech. Wish Fergie well. Yeah, because that was just after he'd had that issue, wasn't it? I think he might have still been in hospital at that time. So it was around about that time, wasn't it? Terry makes a good point there. He says Prem's gone soft. To ever be as exciting as it was. Exactly as it will never be like that again, ever. And Neil says, don't forget us winning the title at Old Trafford. We've won it at Anfield, Old Trafford, and White twice. Yeah, no, we have. Exactly. We've been fortunate, actually, haven't we? Let's be honest, as Arsenal fans, we've been very, very lucky. And yes, at the minute it's terrible, and we spoke about all the bad things tonight that's going on. But ultimately, when you look back, this is why you don't need to pay someone for the culture of Arsenal. Just remember these times. Remember where the club have come from.
Just play this podcast back to the team. The last 20 minutes or so, that will sort of give them the idea.
Well, it should do, shouldn't it?
Done it in the last 20 minutes, right?
But it's all they need to do is just get fans that can speak about it, because you can't pay anybody to recreate that, because we've got it inside us, haven't we? All of us, not just us here, but there's millions and millions of Arsenal fans that have got this inside us. And
we'll set up a GoFundMe and we'll start a PR company. We'll all do it. I don't know if one of you brainstorm the name of it, and we'll go from there. We'll rival them. We'll do it for half the price, but we'll get you double the results after.
We'll get more than double the results. It just won't even be comparable, the results that we would get. You can't fake it. Do you know what I mean? You cannot fake it. It's there inside us, and it's what it is. You know what I mean? And they can do all this PR bullshit. That's not gonna change it.
No.
They just need to get fans involved in that. That's how you get the culture of the club back. That's how people realise what it means. Adam said about his son not understanding the Arsenal Man United rivalry. He's too young to have witnessed it, but he's going to be told about it. And that's how you learn. That's how you get that culture. That's how you understand the culture of Arsenal. That's how you understand what Arsenal means. With that, that's how it works. No other way. Watch old videos. Watch the games. Watch the highlights. Watch stuff and learn. And that's how you're going to do it. All this other stuff is just waffle, as you said earlier, James. That's all it is. It's definitely waffle.
Sadly, yeah.
Yeah, sadly it is. You're right. Okay, now before we finish, I suppose we'll have to look ahead to that Man United game then, because we have got to play it, and they've just got stuff tonight as well, which is quite funny actually in a way. So obviously it's not as big a game as those previous ones that we've been speaking about, and it's a shame that it's not, but it is an important game now, and it could be massively important as to where everybody finishes at the end of the season. We'll see obviously how the game goes for us tomorrow, but obviously Man United are coming onto it on the back of a poor run. They've just got hammered tonight. I mean, Adam, what are you anticipating for this game on Saturday? Because one, it's a 12:30 kickoff, which we never seem to play particularly well in, first off. And secondly, it's a big game against a big team. And this season, we haven't been able to produce performances against the big teams, have we?
No. First one, I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. I'm genuinely really looking forward to Saturday. It can't come quick enough. It is a shame that it's the early kickoff because, like you said, I don't think we've really performed very well. We seem to really kind of struggle to get into matches early on. But if you can't get into an Arsenal Man United game, no matter where you are in the league, where they are in the league, like, you shouldn't be at a club. You shouldn't be at Arsenal. It's as simple as that, really. Like Stan just said, just show the players the last 10, 15 minutes of this chat now. And if you can't get up for that, then we'll see you later. You can go in the summer. You're not welcome. Do you know what I mean? I mean, by my calculations, I've not looked at the league table. We should now be above United because their goal difference.
On goal difference, yeah, I think we are. Yeah.
And with a couple of games in hand. So, like, now's the time to kind of really, put the dagger in, have those couple of games in hand over and make sure we finish above them, because they're awful. I'm sorry, they are awful, United. I know that they've probably lost less than us. We've lost 11 games now this season, but they've been playing awful. Whenever I've really seen them play this year, on whether it's their live matches or highlights, they just look completely rudderless. Like, they've got no direction. They've got no one really wanting to kind of, be part of that team. Like, Ronaldo's come back and they do look better when he's not playing, in my opinion. And he's only really turned it on against the smaller clubs, in my opinion. It was all PR stuff that he'd come back anyway. We won't get into that. But I don't think he'll play on Saturday with what's gone on, which is terrible. Absolutely terrible what's gone on for him. So I don't think he'll play. But I hope we respect that, whether he plays or not. And I think we will as fans. I think we'll definitely respect that. But I really want to see a performance, against United. I really just want to see us kind of grab that horns. I mean, the only real time this season we played well against a so-called big side was the first half against Spurs. And I'd love a performance like that. I'd love a performance, completely get at them. I think it was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago against Man United at the Emirates when we went 3-0 up really quickly. Yeah. And it was like bang, 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 like Arsenal of old. I'd love to see that kind of performance really put them to the sword, because their confidence is low. Massively low, especially after last night. Especially after tonight. So there's no better time to be playing them. They're not.
We haven't played yet, though, Adam. We haven't played Chelsea yet, though. Let's not forget.
I'm looking beyond that already. We've discussed Chelsea. It's in the past in regards to that, so I'm looking forward to it. I do think
we've nicked our draw, so we've got the momentum.
That's true, yeah, we've got a draw, haven't we?
Exactly. I'm in a better mood now after talking about Arsenal Man U, so I'm feeling a little more positive already. And I do think we will win, regardless of what happens tomorrow night. I do think we'll win Saturday, unless we have a complete, injury crisis on Saturday after tomorrow night. I don't know, but I do think we'll win. I do think the players will be up for it. It'll be good to get, back at the Emirates, and I hope the fans are. That's the biggest things. I hope the fans have been good this year. They have, both home and away, and I hope that they can continue to do that, because it does make a difference. It really does. And I'll give you my prediction in the end.
No, I mean, it's good to feel upbeat about playing Man United, actually. Although they haven't actually scored in any of their last 3 Premier League visits to the Emirates, actually. We've won 2 and there's a 0-0 draw last year. But the game that we played when we lost at Old Trafford was actually our 100th defeat against Man United. And I think it may be the only team that's beaten us 100 times in history. possibly. Liverpool.
We deserve to win that game as well. I don't even know.
No, we should have got something out of it. Yeah, we did throw that away, didn't we? I mean, Stan, what are you anticipating then for this one?
I think this is the one where we might actually be able to get something out of the game. You know, I wasn't very positive about with the Chelsea one that we got tomorrow, but I think this one will be a little bit of a different story. I think they're having more problems than we are.
Yeah,
you know, we only look under the microscope at Arsenal, but if you come out a little bit and get a bigger picture, I think they've got far more problems than what we have at the moment, and sometimes you can take advantage of that. So that might be the place where we can pick up some much needed points on Saturday. And again, you know, as we just spoke about, it's always a fixture that I look forward to as well. So I really hope, I don't really hope, I think that we are going to be able to get something out of this game, take advantage, at least a draw, at least.
I mean, you say that they've got bigger problems than us. We actually got the same number of points. So, you know, we've got equal problems probably overall. Yes, we've got a couple of games less than them to get those points back, but one of them is obviously against them. I mean, James, what are you anticipating for Saturday? And I know tomorrow's result is probably going to play a little bit of a part in how that game goes, I suppose. And as Adam said, the possible injuries and stuff. But looking at it now, what are you kind of anticipating for Saturday?
Yeah, so I still think Ronaldo's not going to play, obviously, because of what we've mentioned and what's happened. And Pogba got injured for him today.
Oh,
so
really?
that he come off with an injury. So hopefully we can get the old repeat of what we were talking about earlier. I think if we can get a Spurs first half, I think we can run through that midfield with ease. And I think their defence, you know, okay, we've mentioned about how great United defence was. I think this is the worst Man United defence I've ever seen in my lifetime. So if you can't get at that, I mean, I know we're completely toothless up front, but I'm like, if we can't get anything against that, then this really is a cry for help. But no, I think, like I said, you know, I think we're going to draw one and win the other, but I don't know what way round. If you know, I think it's looking more likely that we'll probably beat United and draw with Chelsea, but we'll see. We will see. That
does seem more likely out of the two, let's be honest. All right, and we'll go with the predictions. And Adam, what's your prediction then for Man United on Saturday? You're standing optimistic, so I'm expecting a good one.
3-0.
3-0.
I just don't know why. I feel very positive.
That's a great one. That is very positive. 3-0. Wow. Okay, we'll certainly take that. That would be good. Stan, what are you thinking then for Saturday?
I think 2-1 to Arsenal.
Yeah, no, 2-1 would be good as well. Any win, I'll take any win actually, so that's fine. Go on then, James. What are you thinking then?
Yeah, I was gonna go for 2-1, so I'll go 3-1. I'll add an extra goal from somewhere.
Where are all these goals coming from? I don't understand where they're suddenly coming from.
I'm not sure. Don't ask me that part. I don't know who's scoring those goals.
Pepe likes scoring against Man United. You know, he might come off the bench and do something.
No, he does, I suppose. So yeah, perhaps he might get one. But yeah, I mean, I actually think we'll. It's a game we've got a great chance to win. Let's be honest, because they are as bad as we are. Let's be fair. Yeah. And we're at home. We've got a decent record against them.
If they're playing Maguire and Jones again. If we get any corners or anything, I'm taking Gabriel.
Jones will play after tonight. It's only second.
Probably not. But I'll take Gabriel on corners against them two clans any day of the week.
No, yeah, you're right. Their defense isn't very great at all, is it? So they can definitely be got out. I think we'll win. I'll go. See, I can't see us scoring too many goals, so I think we might. I'm going to go 1-0. Actually,
I'll take it.
I think we'll probably dominate the game more than 1-0. But I just think we have trouble scoring. But we will get one, and we'll nick it 1-0. Terry says they're great show chats, much appreciated, and great points from the chat. Stay healthy, everyone, and try not to be disappointed. Things hopefully can get better. Good night. Well, they can't get much worse, really, for Arsenal. They can get worse in general, but not for Arsenal because it never tends to, does it? Neil says there. He says, yeah, well said, Terry. Proper fan right there, indeed. He is. And Loki says a 7-7 draw. There you go. That would be good, wouldn't it? 7-7 draw. We'll quite like that, wouldn't we? That would be fun. Not too good for the heart, but anyway. Terry says there. Ronnie hat-trick, no faith in us whatsoever. No, we don't think he's going to be playing, do we, actually? So, you know, due to obviously what happened yesterday. Talking of which, actually, just before we go, I did want to just do this. course, our coach, Chief Scout, former Chief Scout Steve Rowley, of course, did pass away a couple of days ago. Did a lot for the club, didn't he, over the years? Discovered a lot of great players for the club and stuff like that. So, another part of Arsenal's history and culture that's so important. That stuff like that needs to be, people like that need to be remembered, don't they? Because that's all part of it, actually. So, but yeah, so that's obviously some sad news this week. Arsenal and Man United, actually. So, but sometimes it feels like put things into perspective, don't they? Football's important, but as Bill Shankly got it wrong, maybe. He said it's more important in life and death. It's not, is it? Let's be honest. It's just great at the time we're watching it and we've got to talk about it, but you do need to get some perspective as well. But yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty confident for Saturday, which is great. Finally, we can go into a game, hopefully feeling a little bit more confident. It's not often lately that we can do that, is it? So we'll see how tomorrow goes first. If tomorrow goes well, I think we'll all be more confident for Saturday. If tomorrow goes as badly as maybe Stan's predicted it may do, then who knows where we'll be on Saturday. That could be a different game completely, but we'll see. As Neil says there, life and happiness is most important. It is, but unfortunately, Arsenal give us a lot of the happiness or not. They control our happiness, don't they, sometimes, Arsenal, actually. So it kind of linked in a little bit, really. The better Arsenal do, the better life feels sometimes than when Arsenal aren't doing so well, regardless of what else is going on. So they don't realise the responsibility they have today sometimes. They go out there on a Saturday, they fanny around for 90 minutes, lose to Southampton and go home, get their big paycheck, go home in their big massive cars and think, oh, well, that's all right, we'll play again next week. They don't realise the effect it has on millions of people around the world that suffer for a long time on the back of that. But anyway, I'm sure they'll understand it one day. Neil says, yeah, great show, lads. Stay safe, everyone. Keep the faith. Yeah, we're trying to keep the faith, Neil. We are trying to keep the faith. I know, we're trying our best, and it is difficult at times, but we'll continue to do so. Of course, obviously, we will. So that's another Tuesday clip. Do we feel a little bit cleansed, Adam, this week after all that? A lot to get through. A lot's happened this week, actually, as seems to be the case, but perhaps even more than usual. Do you enjoy the show?
Yeah, I do. I feel in a lot better headspace than I did 2 hours ago. So yeah, very much so.
Good.
Feeling a little bit more positive.
Exactly, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Ultimately, trying to get through all the negative stuff and find some positives if we can. And the biggest positive, we're going to beat Man United, of course, which is always a great result. Stan, thanks again for coming on. Have you enjoyed the show?
Loved it, mate. Great coming on and chatting with you guys and chatting all things Arsenal. So yeah, thanks for having me on, mate.
No problem. It's always a pleasure. We'll definitely have you back on again. No problem at all. And James as well. Did you feel kind of cleansed as well? Do you feel a little bit more upbeat following what's been a difficult week or a couple of weeks?
Yeah. I mean, we all started a bit angry and then mellowed out, and now we're completely turned around in that we're gonna do everything possible to win these next two games.
Well, 4 points you're predicting these next two games, one way or the other. So if we get 4 points out of these next two games, then next week's show will definitely be very positive.
I'd be probably even happier, yeah.
Yeah, it will be definitely. So, but we'll see what happens. I mean,
hopefully we don't have more podcasts with players coming out. Hopefully.
Well, yeah.
I would love a quiet week. Just media silence. Just none of you are allowed to do anything. It's a club. All this about club policy. Yeah, it is a policy. None of you say a word.
Unfortunately,
we're doing football this week.
Unfortunately, Amazon are paying us a lot of money to create some drama. So
true.
I don't think it's going to be quiet coming out of Arsenal for the next, certainly for the next few weeks, while they're still around with their cameras. Michael says, great chat, gents. Keep calm. Love the Arsenal. Buy all the merch. Well, there you buy all the merch. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I tend to buy the retro stuff more than anything, actually, just because I prefer those kits generally. But Neil's got a point that the black kit is mine. Yeah, that black kit's looking cool. I quite like the pink one. I've got to be honest. The pink one's probably going to be the one I might end up, if I do, would be that one. But I tend to like the retro kits better anyway. Generally, I just prefer them anyway, which is lucky. So that's the Tuesday clinic then for this week. I'll be back tomorrow, of course, with the watch along Chelsea against Arsenal. It's 7:45 kickoff, isn't it? So I'll probably go about 7:30 with your team news, all that kind of stuff. We'll do that, and then after that, Friday, the Arsenal women's show at 7:30, looking back on the semi-final defeat to Chelsea, looking into the Everton game. And then 2 watch-alongs at the weekend, of course, Man United on Saturday lunchtime, and then Arsenal women against Everton on Sunday evening. So loads and loads coming up on the channel. So please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much to everyone who's watched it, all the comments and that. There was loads and loads of comments tonight. Brilliant stuff. Thanks to all you guys for watching. Don't forget to give it a like before you go. Thanks as well to Adam and to Stan and, of course, to James. And Melvin, of course, as well, who gave us his time despite him being busy in the middle of moving, and that's great to have Melvin on earlier on. Neil says, "Adios, people," and that pink kit will suit you. Yeah, I think it will. I'll definitely try it on in Sports Direct when it comes out, and go from there. But yeah, it's going to be good stuff. So yeah, thanks all you guys for watching. I will see you tomorrow for what hopefully won't be quite as a depressing a game as we're anticipating it might be. Let's hope Arsenal turn up for once, and who knows, maybe the goals will go in, someone will score, and Pepe maybe it's his week to shine. Let's wait and see. So thanks everyone for watching. See you tomorrow. Cheers Adam, cheers Stan, cheers James, and cheers everyone in the chat.
See you later.
See you all tomorrow. See you later, guys. Take it easy. Come on, you Gunners, come on.